Welcome. Thank you for all being here this evening. We appreciate your coming. I'm calling together the regular meeting of the Town Planning Zoning Commission. Today is Monday, October 6, 2025 at 6:30. And again, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate all of you coming in. My name is Jeff Kennedy. I'm the acting chair of the Woodbridge Town Plan and Zoning Commission. Other members of the commission tonight that are with us are Paul Schatz, Sarah Locke, Dr. Wisniak, Dr. Ben Cherry, and Aaron Hoffman, Kathleen Hunter. And we are ably supported by the resourceful Chris Sullivan, who's at the end of our chair here. We appreciate all of her help. It's good to see all of you. Our agenda tonight is published on the town website. You can all have a copy of it there, and we'll follow along for this evening's meeting. A little bit of housekeeping for the next 10 or 15 minutes, given some changes that happened on the commission. I was elected vice chair of the commission in early 2025 and became acting chair on September 22nd when our former chairman resigned. I'm your neighbor. I've lived in Woodbridge for 10 years. I've served on the Town Planning and Zoning Commission for almost that length of time as well, about 10 years. And joining us tonight, we have invited guest Town Attorney Nick Bamonte, who has hopefully agreed to make a few comments regarding the procedure change that happened and what my role would be as acting chair, and then the procedure we're going to do where we're going to elect a new vice chair. So, Nick, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me. So, Jeff is correct that at this point, because the former chairman has resigned, Jeff, by virtue of his position as vice chair, has assumed the acting chair role at this point, which is why the election of a vice chair currently appears on the TPZ agenda for this evening. What that really means is that there is currently one vacancy on the TPZ, former Chairman Klee. Until the Board of Selectmen fills that vacancy, Jeff, you will serve as acting chair, and the intention of electing a vice tonight is so that in the event that you are going to chair a meeting and you're not available, there is a replacement able to step into the shoes as chairman and carry on a meeting and conduct business as the law requires this commission to do. So really it's just a matter of housekeeping to make sure that there is sufficient officers in the board to continue its business. Jeff, you'll serve in this acting role, and whoever's elected as vice chair will serve in that role until, like I said, former Chairman Klee's vacant seat is filled, at which point the TPZ will have a full 6-person membership, and at that point the TPZ will vote to elect its full slate of officers again at that time, once the TPZ is fully populated. But at this time, since we do not have a fully populated TPZ, you have stepped into the acting role, and as I've said a few times now, the action tonight is to elect a vice chair. I know that falls after the public hearing. At least that's how the agenda is represented. If the commission wanted to take that item out of order, just to dispense with that vote at the outset of this meeting, it can do so. I would just suggest a motion and a vote to amend the order of the agenda to take it out of order.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. So if you're following along in our agenda, we are going to make a small change just to get this housework done up front, if it's okay with everybody. So I'm going to make a motion to move up on the agenda the election of commission vice chair from below our combined public hearing to right now. We have a second on that.
Do you want to see alternates?
Yeah. Who are we seeing?
Sarah and Bob.
Sarah and Bob.
What was that, Chris?
Because we have two, you have
Thank you.
Andrew Skolnick, who has recused himself. He's a full member. You have a vacancy created by the resignation of Rob Cleat, and so therefore you need to seat two alternates for this evening.
And Chris, you said Sarah and Bob, is that right?
That's what I said.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I do want to see that. I consider it so seated. Thank you.
Is that the pizza guy?
So I'll do that again. I'm going to make a motion to move up on the agenda the vice chairman election. Can I have a second on that, please?
Second.
Any discussion or comment on that matter? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Next, I'd like to make a motion to elect Aaron Hoffman, the vice chair of the Town Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, thanks, everybody. So tonight we'll move ahead with a combined public hearing, first on 804 Fountain Street. The application is for a special permit for excavation and to construct a multifamily development, and a special exception modification related to the roof of the building is also shown in the agenda and the application paperwork. In new business, if we get to that, we will have two matters to address, which we should, including 2023 Lunar Drive and 110 Luciano Street. And in our work session this evening, we will have other matters that we may address, including Fountain Street, Plan of Conservation Development, minutes and reports as the evening depends, and we'll see how the evening goes and how much time we'll have. Okay?
Jeff, before we continue, can we have
Please.
a time that we're not going to leave the public here for 2, 3, 4 hours and then shut them out? So
yes.
before we go on, I think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
So let's pick a time, and if the public can't, let's not start the public, the public comment at 10 o'clock, so that people can force people to sit here for 3 hours.
Okay, so Mr. Schatz, in the 804 components of this evening, we have Mr. Duff's going to make a presentation, and then we'll be able to ask him questions, okay? Then we'll have the interveners, and then we can ask some questions. And then after that, commissioners can ask questions for that. Then there will be some public comment. I can't like push people along. I mean, I can't push. Like, help me to understand what you're asking for, so I can give it to you.
I mean, all these people came out,
Yeah.
and if it's 10 o'clock and they're going to start public comment, that's not fair to the public, right? So why don't we get an idea of how long each presentation is going to be, and then put a time.
Okay.
So you guys go as long as you need to go. What I'm saying is, if you think it's going to go past X hour, let's tell the public, listen, public comments can happen October 21st. Because I don't want. I mean, I don't think I'd want to sit here for 3 hours and then start a public comment.
understand.
I mean, you guys.
I'm sure it'll be. I'm sure it'll be riveting information, Paul, that the public wants to hear. But I get your point.
Yeah.
I take you. Mr. Duff, do you want to comment on that?
Sure, why don't I just come up with this? Okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Nuff. I'm an attorney with the office at 135 Broad Street in Milford, Connecticut. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Angela Malisi. And yes, I was obviously here in September when we heard Commissioner Schatz's concerns about the public speaking. I have no concerns about when the public speaks, how long the public speaks. We made the offer, and I think we all agreed, us, the interveners, and the commission, that we'll do a presentation tonight. The interveners can do their presentation. For whatever period of time the public wants to speak, I'm happy to reserve the entire evening, October 21st, for the public to speak. We can start at 6:30, and they'll have as many hours as they want to speak, and then we can all come back in November, and once the public comment portion is done, then our team will respond to everything. I think that's a respectful and very organized way in which we can go forward with the application.
I understand. Paul, any questions on that?
So, do you have an idea of how long your presentation is going to be?
I mean, even with questions, I mean, half hour, 45 minutes. I mean, we want to keep it fairly concise for that reason.
Okay, interveners want to say anything? Comment?
I think our presentation will probably be something of a similar amount of time, half hour perhaps.
So to the public, to be respectful, we should have a good amount of time this evening for all of you to speak, and I think we'll fit in quite a few of you, okay? We're not gonna be here till midnight, okay? But we wanna hear what you have to say while you're on the record, to listen to you, and let's see how that goes. Paul, is that helpful?
Yeah, it's great.
Paul, is there a
Thanks.
game on at some?
There is.
sometime?
There's multiple games, Jeff. You should know that.
Okay, put your phone upside down. I'm sharing now. Close your computer. All right, folks. All right, Mr. Nuff, thank you.
Okay.
I have, before I hand things over to you, I have a personal comment. You're welcome to stand there. It'll take me 5 minutes to make,
Okay,
or you can sit down or go to the sides. All right? All right. I need to share something with my neighbors of a personal nature. I have to tell you about something and go through something with you in the interest of full disclosure. Okay? So, look, many people are involved in municipal activities and are associated with political parties, and if you're active in town, you might be doing something that is related to a political party, or you have different activities that you take on, different roles that you have in the town. In my case, I'm a member of the Democratic Party, and I'm a member of the Democratic Town Committee here in the town of Woodbridge, Connecticut. As I'm sure all of you know, people within parties can have very wide views on all sorts of subjects, whether it's land use or medical issues or these different things, and people have different policies that they believe in, and they have different interests that they look out for. A few days ago, my understanding is that DTC took a position specifically on the Fountain Street application that's presently before the commission, and they made some comments either through an email or a mailing or so forth, and they publicly came out with a position on the application. I did not participate in any statements that they crafted. I'm not engaging in discussion around these matters, and have kept that way off to the side in a different part of my life, but it's the right thing to do to say to you that I'm on the town committee, and I just wanted to disclose that to you. As I've mentioned, I've been on the commission for 10 years, and I want to assure all of you that I act in an ethical, transparent, and thoughtful manner. I speak for myself. No attorney wrote the comments I just wrote out. I'm here to work for you as my neighbors, and I'm here to work for you as an acting commissioner at the TPZ, and to serve all of you in the role that I have, where I need to be independent with all of the other commissioners that we have on this commission. Sarah Locke and Kathy Hunter are also commission members and are also members of the DTC. They're welcome to make any statement that they would like to say, but I promise you all, knowing all of the people that sit next to me on both sides, we take this job very seriously. We know there's a lot of different opinions about applications that come, and then you can sometimes get a municipal election right on top of all of that, which is what's going on. But we're here to do the work of this commission, be ethical and thoughtful, so I just wanted to disclose all of that. Okay? Thank you. All right, with that said, I'm not going to...
Mr. Chairman, I mean, on behalf of the interveners,
Sure.
We'd like to ask all three of the members of the Democratic Town Committee to recuse themselves from the proceedings. The Democratic Town Committee did submit public comment in accordance with these proceedings, encouraging the public in this town to come out against this application.
Sure.
It took a very clear position against this application. And we just don't see how the optics of this, at least the optics of this makes sense.
So you must be for the application then?
Am I for the application? I'm for a fair process, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
so listen, you're going to get that. I've been doing this for 10 years. Municipal elections come and go every 2 years in the town. You know that. They rotate in and out, and people take different positions for all different sorts of reasons.
You should recuse yourself. It's not appropriate.
I appreciate that. But what I will say to you is I can be honest and thoughtful and provide thoughtful analysis, and I feel like I can come to a good decision on that.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for purposes of making a record,
Sure.
for posterity's sake,
Sure.
the interveners are asking the three commissioners, Ms. Hunter, Ms. Locke, and you, Mr. Kennedy, to recuse yourselves from the proceedings. Could we get a clear answer about either an agreement with that proposition or a refusal?
Sure. Hold on. Let me do it. Please write a letter if you would. Okay, send a letter in to Chris Sullivan. You're welcome to deliver it tonight. If you already have one, you can just hand it to her. And we will take it into consideration. Please put that request into writing. We'll take it into consideration. I'm not recusing myself right now, but thank you very much. Attorney. Yes, please. I recognize Kathy Hunter who would like to.
Yes, I also wanted disclose that I did receive an email from the Woodbridge Democratic Town Committee regarding 804 Fountain Street. I wanted to also disclose that I did receive an email from the Woodbridge Democratic Town Committee regarding 804 Fountain Street. I am a member of the Woodbridge Democratic Town Committee, a non-officer. I had no involvement with that email. I will be deciding this matter if I am seated solely on the evidence in the record in our zoning regulations.
Ms. Locke, would you like to make a comment?
I mean, I hadn't planned on saying anything about this tonight, but I do agree with everything Jeff said. I think public trust in this hearing and all hearings are really important. I had no, previous knowledge of the DTC sending out that email, nor did I speak with them about it. I think we all, are part of political parties and part of other groups, and it would never weigh my decision when I'm here as a commissioner. So.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Mr. Knapp, would you like to make a comment on what I just presented?
Sure. The case law is really clear on this. So a commission member has to recuse him or herself if you have made a predetermination on the application prior to the hearing opening. That's what the case law says. If you have a conflict of interest, which means typically a financial conflict of interest, or you receive ex parte communications from a party. The parties are the applicant and the interveners. Absent that, you are left to your own discretion and to your own conscience as to whether or not you want to sit or not. The request has been made. You have all stated on the record that you feel that you can judge this application impartially, and you are fully entitled to go forward in your position as a planning and zoning commission member. And if there wants to be a challenge, they've made that challenge, and what I'm concerned about is that once the hearing's closed and there's a vote, and then we go on this fishing expedition of, trying to supplement the record with interrogatories or depositions, unnecessary. You've all made your comments on the record, so I'm fine.
Mr. Knapp, thank you very much for your comments. I'm going to just let one more person speak if he wants to be recognized and say something. Nick, did you have any comments? Okay, can Nick hear us?
Yes.
Yes, I can. Sorry, I was just unmuting myself. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with the representation that Attorney Nuff just made in that, look, as the town attorney, I am not the arbiter of whether a recusal is necessary or not. That falls on the individual. There has been a specific request, as stated on the record, for the recusals. 3 individuals for which that request applied have made comments in response on the record, and it's, ultimately at the individual's discretion whether or not to proceed. So other than that, I have no other comments at this time.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Okay, with that said, we're going to move on. We're going to move to the combined public hearing. And so in the combined public hearing, we're going to move back to you, Mr. Numpkin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. By the way, just one other housekeeping matter. I took it upon myself to rearrange the deck chairs so that once we get onto the presentation materials, you can all just leave your seats behind the desk and actually see the screen rather than craning your neck and giving yourself a sore neck this evening. So probably after I finish speaking and our experts start to testify, you may want to avail yourself of that opportunity.
Thank you.
So as you said, Mr. Chairman, there are 3 special exception applications before you this evening that which are all combined. The original special exception application for multifamily development, as your regulations define it, special exception to modify the roof, and then also the application that we're opening this evening, which is the excavation application. As you know, we opened the hearing on June 2nd. Since that time, we've done a comprehensive and thorough site investigation to address all of the comments that we received from the interveners and from their various experts. We submitted a long list of items on October 19th. I just want to quickly run through those for the record. I submitted a letter on August 19th referencing that we have submitted new civil plans prepared by Solving Engineering. And by the way, this is a new civil engineer, Solving Engineering. 10 engineering reports, geotech reports, so we actually did soil borings that we were requested to do, architectural plans that were revised for the comments of the public and the commission, response comments to the town fire chief and town fire marshal, response memo to the comments of Justin LaFountain. I understand that Justin's no longer being employed by the town. Response memo to Trinkets Engineering, response to Jim Preddy, who's the town's own peer reviewer. Since that time, you know that we've gotten a clean bill of health from Mr. Preddy, a traffic engineering assessment from our new traffic engineer, Matt Baldino. Steve Ullman, who is with us, has since retired. I can't tell you that his retirement is the result of that hearing, but Steve has been a colleague and friend for many years, and I hope he's enjoying his retirement. We also submitted copies of the memo regarding school enrollment, and then also there's, on August 20th, there is a memo from Bill Kenny, our environmentalist, and then there's a revised engineering report that was submitted on August 27th. And then on August 28th, as I said, we got a memo from Jim Preddy that all his issues have been addressed. On September 2nd, our goal was to go forward with the applications, but of course there was a notice issue. And then at that time, we agreed upon a format. And pursuant to that format, we did receive interveners' comments on September 29th. I think there was something from Sigrun on the following day, and there's something this morning to clarify what had been submitted on September 29th. So tonight, the plan is to essentially review the plans that we submitted in late August. That will be by Jason Montagno, a professional engineer, Bill Kenny, our environmental scientist, Pat Rose, our architect, and Matt Baldino. And then the interveners can present their testimony. And then if you want to hear from the public at that time, obviously, I think it's more than likely that you'll have plenty of time to do so. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Baldino, and if the commission wants to leave their seats and have a better view of the screen, you certainly have the ability to do that. Thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Jason Montagno. I am a professional engineer with Solely Engineering at 501 Main Street in Monroe, Connecticut. I'm here to discuss the application and also kind of point out differences between the old plans that you reviewed and the new plans that we submitted, and highlight the major changes and demonstrate how we're in conformance. I just wanted to provide more of a visual of what the new rendering and layout is for this project. This will be kind of added on. We'll have some more dialogue regarding this later in the application by our architect.
Excuse me, speak slower, because a lot of us are on hearing aids. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so this is the new site plan that Solely Engineering has developed. Along our site, it is bordered by Fountain Street to the north. We have the Woodbridge Land Trust to the west, and we have wooded area to the south and east. Our site access is still going to remain off of Fountain Street. We'll be proposing a driveway that'll come up and enter into our surface parking, and we'll have our proposed building. This proposed building will be approximately 116,000 square feet, consisting of 4 stories, so nothing in terms of really the building dimensions have changed. We are providing surface parking adjacent to the building. This is 91 surface spaces in addition to 55 underground spaces, so we are compliant with the parking requirement in terms of Connecticut state statutes. One of the major changes that we provided as part of the site plan is we are now proposing a 20-foot wide emergency vehicle access lane along the southern end of the building. This will work. So this is just to demonstrate compliance with the fire code, so you'll have access along the southern side, the eastern side, and as well as the northern side. Located at the north side of the building, you'll have your access drive that will then turn into the underground parking areas. This area will also have storage for tenants, the utility rooms, bike storage as well, and elevators and accessible spaces that are proposed. So we're compliant from an ADA space count. We're proposing 6 total spaces on site. We've also provided provisions per Connecticut statutes for EV charger stations that are located in the front of the building, as you can see up on the screen here. And we've responded to some comments by highlighting some snow storage areas located along the northern part of the parcel, as well as additionally next to these 4 adjacent parking spaces. Lastly, we've added some permeable pavers located in the middle of the parking area, as well as I mentioned, that 20-foot wide emergency vehicle access lane. So there were some comments regarding truck turning movements. So we spoke with the fire chief, and we were able to build the fire truck model as seen on the top right of the screen. So we provided it as a 44-foot long truck with a 5-foot overhang, and all of the dimensions are in fact correct. And we use this truck to actually enter off of Fountain Street and show that it can circumnavigate the site without having any conflicts with the proposed parking spaces or curbs. So a fire truck will be safely able to enter and exit the facility and be able to provide fire suppression. This is another model that we ran. So on this one, we also just wanted to demonstrate compliance, that the fire truck was able to enter the site and also be able to take a left-hand turn into this 20-foot wide emergency vehicle access lane. The fire truck will then be able to back up and then exit the site. So this is also in compliance with the Connecticut Fire Code, to providing enough length and maneuverability for the fire truck. And lastly, we wanted to also just demonstrate a fire truck, or a garbage truck movement with the same sort of thing of entering off of Fountain Street and navigating through the site, being able to pick up the trash located in the refuse area, as you can see on the screen here, being able to perform a back movement, navigating through the site and exiting. Now, as John mentioned, we did perform a very comprehensive site investigation, especially with the soils, as well as our design, to make sure that we were in compliance with the 2024 Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual, and to make sure our stormwater design was also in compliance with the town of Woodbridge zoning regulations and stormwater regulations. So test bits. So we actually performed 20 test bits. If you look at one of these symbols over here that has a TP label next to it, and we performed these within the building footprint, the parking areas, as well as the proposed retaining wall rock cut to the rear, and within the location of our underground systems in accordance with the manual. So the test bits, we're going to use an excavator. It comes out there, and what we're looking for is the soil composition, the depth to bedrock or ledge, in addition to what is the depth to groundwater and seasonally high groundwater, which will fluctuate based on the time of year. As you can see on the right-hand side, these are just some pictures of some of the test bits that we encountered. Just wanted to give some sort of visual representation for that. So the grading and drainage plan. So we did modify this grading and drainage plan in terms of the last one that was submitted. One area I wanted to focus on especially was we have our building in this area. We have our parking area located directly to the east of it. In this area, we shallowed the slopes a little bit more to make it safer for vehicles, not only navigating through the site, but also residents parking in there. So the slope was reduced from 6% to 4% as good engineering practice. We also revised this driveway area to be DOT compliant, since this is a state road. We made sure that we were just under the maximum slope that is allowed by the DOT as we come up to our site driveway. Now, piggybacking off of what I said for the test bits that we did, we used this test bit data in our stormwater design. One of the ways we were compliant was within this area here where all the boxes are. This is one of our underground stormwater systems that's going to help treat and attenuate the stormwater flows. We also provided another one right at the driveway entrance. So that being said, this system here, we are in compliance with the manual. We have approximately less than 4,000 square feet of infiltrating area, and we provided 2 test pits for that. So what I want to elaborate on more is, how does all this stormwater work? So we are collecting majority of the stormwater in this upper area for the building and for the parking lot. This stormwater will travel through storm drainage pipes into catch basins, and those catch basins will capture the stormwater and then route it to our underground system. Anything that surpasses, or bypasses, I should say, this area will then float down the driveway. One thing we did add versus the previous design was we added 2 catch basins along the property line right at the edge of the driveway to make sure that we were capturing as much stormwater as possible so that it would not enter out onto Fountain Street, which is DOT jurisdiction. So these underground systems I'm going to elaborate more on, but they're basically just these big concrete structures that are hollow, and all the stormwater essentially goes into there, and we're releasing it slowly back out. In this area, I'm going to switch over to the next slide really quick, but I wanted to talk about infiltration. So we use the infiltration in our stormwater management systems to be in compliance with the manual. So in this area, we are capturing that stormwater and we're allowing it to infiltrate through the bottom, and we're meeting the water quality volume standards per the Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual. One second. Okay, now I'll elaborate a little bit more. So we did receive some comments that we're not providing enough reduction in the pollutants that occurred during the first initial rainfall event, which is the water quality storm. I won't bore you too much with the specifics, but the water quality storm is essentially the first flush, or it assumes the most pollutants are in stormwater runoff are conveyed in the initial portion of the storm event. That's generated by that storm. So this is the area in the natural condition where we should be managing that volume of water and restoring the pre-development hydrology. So in the pre-development condition, we had wooded area, and there's a certain amount of water that's actually going back in to recharge that groundwater. So we need to make sure that we are providing that same sort of measure in this design. So the underground system, at the bottom, we are infiltrating that maximum, that required amount, and to be in compliance with the manual. So this is the manual. I'll just give a brief really overview, but we have the required retention volume. So that's the volume I stated before, the water quality volume. So we're holding that in our system and allowing it to infiltrate. So that actually meets or exceeds the requirements for the manual. Now, infiltration up here at the table 8-1, it says that infiltration stormwater management measures are suitable for meeting this performance criteria, and they recharge the groundwater. So that's what we did for our grading and drainage design. So one of the, in addition, another part of this, of the stormwater quality manual is that there's, as I mentioned, those pollutants, those total suspended solids, as you have the stormwater. As it comes down, it's bringing up debris and trash and whatnot. So we're providing that, we're meeting the adequate reduction of these stormwater pollutants.
Where's all that water running to?
That water,
Is it going to run down the street, onto Fountain Street?
No, that's
the neighborhoods below?
No, sir.
What about the Yale property?
I'm going to continue with the presentation, and we'll respond to questions after. Okay, back to what I was presenting on. So, and with this table, if we're providing the infiltration in our system, we are meeting all the requirements for the total suspended solids, the total phosphorus, and the total nitrogen. So we don't have to provide any other calculations. However, with that, though we have the infiltration systems, we need to provide some sort of pre-treatment for the water. So the way we're going to pre-treat that is we want to try to remove the coarse sediment and oils and trash that are coming out during that initial rainfall event. And we want to capture that and treat that before it gets to our system so that our system can be efficient and act as it was designed. So with that, we up here we have our deep sump-put catch basins. So we've proposed those on all of our catch basins within our parking lots. And we also have what's called a hydrodynamic separator. So this essentially the stormwater goes into this. It looks like a manhole. It swirls the water around and allows the coarser sediment and the trash to kind of settle out and be collected, and then it lets the cleaner water go into our infiltration system. So we're providing more pre-treatment measures in order to enhance the quality of that stormwater. And I just want to actually go back really quick to this. I just wanted to say too, this whole design, based on the town of Woodbridge's regulations, we do have to reduce runoff coming off of the site from the pre-development to the proposed development conditions. So in that, we demonstrated that we are reducing the 1, 2, 10, 25, 50, 100 year, all the storm events required by the town of Woodbridge, we are reducing those. We are also reducing the 2-year storm, the flow off-site by 50%, which is one of the requirements of the stormwater manual. It's demonstrating further our compliance with the design. Okay. Next, I wanted to touch upon our soil erosion and sediment control measures. So one of the major differences too is we actually broke up these plans into 3 separate phases to provide more continuity and to demonstrate how this would be developed throughout the course of construction. The first phase would really be constructing a stone construction entrance, which will help break off the dirt from all the construction vehicles and reduce any tracking onto Fountain Street. We would also be proposing, the contractor will be installing the silt fence with hay bale backing along the perimeters of our limit of disturbance, or the areas that we're clearing. These areas we want to make sure that we're not discharging any sediment during construction onto Fountain Street or to the south. So we have our retaining wall. We're proposing that silt fence with hay bale backing. And then the next slide, I'll show you some pictures just so you have a nice visual representation of these measures. So we also provided an additional first line of defense, silt fence with hay bale backing. So as this area is cleared, the runoff will come down gradient and it'll hit our first line of defense, which is this soil erosion, the silt fence. And anything that bypasses will then come downward into the second line of defense, which is this area here. The rest of the stormwater during construction will actually come to our sediment trap, which was sized in accordance with Connecticut's soil erosion manual. We have a drainage swale here that will direct any water that bypasses the silt fence. It'll direct that water into the sediment trap. And this is where all the sediment will kind of disperse and settle down to the bottom. And on the next slide, I'll just kind of explain a little more how that trap will work to make sure that we have cleaner stormwater runoff. So these are just some of the visual representations. On the top left, we have our stone entrance anti-tracking pad. So as the trucks and equipment drive over this, the dirt should loosen up and fall into here. We also have this is the silt fence with hay bale backing at the top middle of the screen. So this is just fabric that is driven into the ground and backfilled along the front. And we also have hay bale behind it to provide additional support. At the top right are silt sacks. So you might have seen these are also another common practice on construction jobs. These go into the catch basins before the site, and they stay in there until the site is fully stabilized. But they'll also collect sediment, and then the contractor will be able to empty this out throughout the course of construction. And that's to make sure that sediment's not really getting discharged into our stormwater conveyance system. At the bottom left, we also have our silt fence at the bottom of the proposed slope. So maybe a little difficult to see, but there's a black fence, and these are posts that drive the fencing, the silt fence into the ground. And then lastly, we have our sediment trap. So the sediment should be settling down to the bottom, and we also have a pipe that's wrapped in a fabric to prevent it from clogging and discharging stormwater with sediment in it downstream. We're also providing stone around it as well to act as an additional support and barrier And then the stormwater will be able to enter into the perforations in this pipe and be discharged downstream to our riprap apron. On the second phase, this is where the construction will start turning towards constructing the rear rock cut wall, and also as well as the proposed building foundation. We're still going to be, in the contract, will be required to inspect and maintain our sediment trap, our construction entrance, as well as the silt fence that were installed in the first phase. We provided on our plans requirements for when these measures should be inspected and how often, especially after every rainfall event. So we provided those frequencies on the plans to make sure that they're functioning as they were designed and intended to do so. And lastly, we just have, in accordance with the soil erosion manual, we did propose erosion control blankets on the slopes that are steeper than 3 to 1. So we just wanted to make sure that everything was covered for this. Phase 3 is where a bulk of the construction work is completed. This is where your site paving will occur. This is where also you'll be installing some of the last portions of your utility lines and still maintaining all of the soil erosion measures that were previously installed. So here now the building should be constructed. There should be interior work going on. We'll be finishing the connections and maintaining erosion control blankets as needed. On the utility plan, one of the major changes from the previous submission is that these catch basins, if you look within the building footprint, there's some catch basins. Originally those were going to the stormwater system, however, with deep requirements, we actually are rerouting those catch basins to an oil water separator to remove any of that debris that could accumulate in those catch basins, as well as any spillage, and have some pre-treatment. And from there, along with our building sanitary line, will run to some manholes and then connect along Fountain Street. In this too, we're also proposing our connection for our fire suppression and our domestic water. Those will tap along into Fountain Street. These will run up the site and run parallel to our site drive before entering into the water room. We are providing additional fire measures. We're providing 2 15,000-gallon underground fire suppression tanks to provide additional support for the sprinkler system and to make sure that we have adequate fire suppression for the project. Lastly, we'll be connecting our electric, telecom, and communication lines, and these will be connecting to an existing utility pole, running parallel to the utility, the water line and the sanitary line, and also entering into the utility room. I just want to kind of backtrack to when I was discussing the water and fire suppression. We're also proposing a fire hydrant that will be accessible to fire trucks as they come in and enter the site, in addition to a fire department connection located at the northeast portion of this building. And the lighting plan, one major change from the previous submission is that there were inadequate number of light fixtures along the site driveway. It seemed that it was too dark, so in our submission we're proposing 3 lighting poles along that site drive to provide that adequate site lighting and make it safe for cars to enter and exit the development. We're also proposing here more site lighting fixtures within the parking area, as well as the down ramp to make it safer for residents and pedestrians, and to make sure that there are safe light levels. The building will have wall-mounted sconces and and all fixtures are going to be LED and dark sky compliant and achieve appropriate light levels for safe site use while minimizing off-site glare and light spillage onto adjacent properties. So this dark line that's along the border here, this is where the site lighting is at 0. So there should be dark afterwards, so we're not spilling light onto the property to the west, nor are we spilling any light to the south of the property. I'd like to hand off this to Bill Kenny to discuss more of our landscaping plan to demonstrate the changes that were made to the project.
Can we ask him questions before you hand off?
Good evening. I am Bill Kenny. I'm the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield, Connecticut. I'm a senior land use ecologist.
You guys speak up clear.
Certainly. I have more than 35 years experience. I have a master's in environmental management from the Yale School of the Environment, professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect. We were hired with this project to provide ecological review and consulting and assist with the landscape design. We started our involvement with investigating the property to review the position, determine whether or not there were inland wetlands and watercourses on the property, which we determined there were none on the site. We did recognize that there were some nearby to the east, running alongside the Parkway, Local Cross Parkway, which is just east of the property. We obtained permission from the Connecticut DOT to review that, and we determined essentially a drainage swale. When the Parkway was constructed, they put a drainage swale along the Parkway to collect water that was coming down the slope. That water goes to a pipe just south of Fountain Street, and that water is directed under the Parkway to the land to the east. And that water picks up, or that pipe picks up water from Fountain Street, untreated water from Fountain Street, hundreds of feet of Fountain Street that extends to the west. That water comes down the hill, goes in that pipe, and directly discharges untreated down below the Parkway. And also water from the Parkway itself is directed through that system and to the east of the Parkway. So we also then later were asked to review the property and evaluate the existing ecological conditions and also review the project design and work with the project designers to help to improve the ecological conditions of that design. I did not design the landscape, but we did make some recommendations for the landscape plan. I'm going to review the landscape plan with you this evening. It was prepared by a landscape architect from Soli Engineering. And then I will also review with you some of the other existing ecological conditions and proposed conditions. And I will say that based on the work that we have done reviewing existing and proposed conditions, and with regard to the law relative to intervenor status, I do conclude as a professional that the project will not unreasonably pollute, impair, or destruct natural resources such as inland wetlands and watercourses, and the hilltop ridge that runs along the western side of the property. So the property today is a forested landscape. There's two primary forest types. There's the forest that runs along the western edge of the property from the northwest to the southeast. That is a very good quality habitat, lots of native species, and a very good quality forest. It's at the top of a ridge. The ridge pitches to the west off-site and pitches to the east down into the site, and the property line pretty much runs right along that ridge line. And then as you come down into the site, at the far eastern end, there's the habitat quality degrades, and there's an abundance of invasive vegetation present on the eastern side of the site. And you have a transition zone down through the middle of the site. None of the habitat on the property is particularly rare. It's all relatively common. We did not identify any species or habitat that's listed by the Connecticut Deep as critical habitat or as threatened or endangered species. And also, so looking at the proposed development, the primary methods for protection of the environment are the stormwater management that's being proposed, and which was thoroughly reviewed with you this evening, and that's both management of the stormwater during construction with the soil erosion and sediment control measures, and management of the stormwater after construction with the various stormwater BMPs. And we were very happy to see during construction the changes that were made to demonstrate and illustrate the phasing of the project. We think that's very important. On a steeply sloping site like this, it is important to show that phasing of the soil erosion and sediment control measures. If you just have one snapshot, the site is going to change from the first week to the last week, so I think that's very helpful, particularly with the establishment of a sediment trap right up front. So before you start removing trees and the tree trunks and exposing soil and the potential for erosion, put in these perimeter measures, silt fencing and the hay bales, and that sediment trap, so that you can collect all the water that's coming down off the site and direct it to that trap, which is a basin. It holds the water. That water doesn't leave that basin unless it goes through that crushed stone mound that was shown, and then there's a pervious pipe in the middle of that wrapped with filter fabric to ensure that that water is running through that before it leaves the site. There is a potential for fines being suspended in the eroded sediment, eroded soil, clay and silt that might become colloidal, and what that means is that it won't settle physically. It won't be removed through physical settlement, and we've been involved with many projects where that occurs. It's very common on construction sites, and there are products used to you mix with the water, and it takes that colloidal, these very small particles that have a slight charge to them, and they repel each other and they don't settle up, but you mix it with a flocculant that allows those particles to bind, and then they settle out, and you can control the sediment in that way, and it's very commonly done on construction sites. Particularly sites of this size, we're usually using them on much larger properties, so it would not be a problem to use it here. And we have reviewed that with the Solely Engineering and with the applicant, and they are pleased to adopt that if it's determined to be necessary. During construction, there will be monitoring of the soil erosion and sediment control measures and the conditions on the site. And as with any construction site, you'll adapt and adjust to the conditions that you're seeing to ensure that there isn't sediment being discharged off the site. The stormwater management that was described, it's excellent that there's a treatment train. You collect the water from the various proposed impervious surfaces, whether it be the roof or the parking lot, and it's directed to catch basins in the parking lot. And then you start treatment right at that initial collection device where you remove the heaviest sediment and you remove some of the floating debris, and then the water is taken from there and allowed to be directed to the hydrodynamic separator. You have another level of treatment to remove more sediment and more floating pollutants. And then ultimately it goes to the infiltration chambers where you ensure that the vast majority of the water, that first flush or the water quality treatment volume is more than 90% of the water that hits the ground over the course of an average year. And so that water will go into these chambers, slowly infiltrate into the ground, and then it'll be treated, it'll be cooled, and it'll slowly just move through the ground hundreds of feet, and then before it's discharged. So it's very excellent treatment, and for, again, a site, this is an overall relatively small site, and common practice used on a regular basis.
What about the lake above the site? Mr. Kennedy?
So then, a few things about the landscape plan. There's 3 or 4 primary types of planting that's proposed with this, and one will be planting around the building itself. We'll work from the building out, and so along the front of the building there's very traditional, more ornamental planting proposed, and then in the parking lot and around the entrance drive you have other planting. An abundance of trees are proposed to help with shading of the proposed parking area and drive area. And then as you step out to the outer edge, it's more habitat plantings, and we have made some recommendations to, which we think to improve the habitat value of the plantings, and some of those are, there's lawn areas that we've recommended be converted to meadow areas, and the applicant and the landscape architect with Sully Engineering has agreed to that. And that'll be along the Fountain Street, just south of Fountain Street, between the parking and Fountain Street, as well as some areas between the entrance drive and the parking. Here and up through here, eliminating, currently this area is proposed to be lawn, and we would eliminate that and make it meadow, and areas in here. So the lawn would be limited to narrow strips or framing along the paved surfaces, just along the edge of the road, and then the rest of the planting will be native meadows. And another recommendation which we made and the applicant has agreed to adopt is to make all of the proposed planting, the trees, the shrubs, and the ground covers to be native vegetation. Lastly, a few other things we proposed was to adopt an invasive vegetation control plan for the property. As I said, there's a fair amount of invasive vegetation in the eastern portion of the property. I know there's concern for that, whether or not that might extend into the western portion of property. I'll say right now where the existing or the previous home site was, there's a tremendous amount of invasive vegetation there in the northwest corner of the property. Wisteria, Japanese knotweed, and burning bush. And so the plan, the applicant will include a plan to control invasive vegetation through the woodland areas to help restore those woodlands and protect those woodlands. Also, behind the building, where the cut into the rock will be, we're proposing to install a continuous staggered row of native white pine and eastern red cedars at the top of the ridge line to enhance the buffer that will exist there. So with that, that's our presentation. Pat Rose, the project architect, will now discuss.
25 minutes. Here you go.
Good evening, Patrick Rose from Rose Tizo Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue in Fairfield, the project architect. Just to discuss quickly the changes that have been made to the building based on comments that we previously had. We have scrapped the previous facade design, which was a more darker, modern treatment of the facade, and opted to go to a lighter, more traditional materials. in order to make the building less imposing as a backdrop. What we've done is we've changed the overall materials on the bottom will be a stone material that wraps around on 3 sides. Above that on that first floor will be brick as it wraps around the building on 3 sides. Then on the second and third floors, we'll have clapboard, and on the upper stories will be a board and batten siding. So we changed completely the materials. We made the center tower will be all brick. These 4 towers that are boxed windows will be all brick as they go up. And then we have box bay windows on these 4 locations, which come up, pop out, and then on the end of the building also. We have that fenestration change as we go along the building.
You have to speak clearer in the mic. You're talking to the side. Thank you. And you're mumbling.
Top cornice is a stucco material, and we have a metal roofs on the top of these 4 towers, along with the metal roof that's at the entrance portico. Some changes we made to the building include placing the stair towers at the front of the building, as requested by the fire marshal. We have also have the electric room in this location, the sprinkler room, building's fully sprinklered with standpipes. There's standpipe in each one of these stair towers also. We have refuse room in the middle, and then storage and bike storage along in this garage level, which is all below grade. Because it's below grade, we have to ventilate it. It's being ventilated here per the state building code and mechanical code. So we'll be circulating air through here with a CO system that will turn it on and off. First floor, we have the main lobby entrance with portico, the front stairways exiting here. There are 21 units on that first floor. Then on a typical floor plan, there are 25 units with the stairs, same location, elevator in the center lobby. On the roof, there were some comments associated with the fire marshal requested that we do not use or install solar panels, so the owners agreed not to install solar panels on the roof. It inhibits the ability to fight fire because of solar panels being on the roof. We've also changed the parapet to some degree. It used to be 5 feet, it's down to 3 feet. They requested it to be lower in order for them to gain access on that roof. We responded to the fire marshal and the fire chief's comments on the building, which included, which Jason had talked about, which truck would be used for the turning templates. They had made tape measurements of the truck and created a model that drove around, showed that we are not impacting any of the curbs or parking spaces associated with that. How often was the trash emptied? Trash and recycling is emptied once per week. Question whether hydrants and standpipes were located. There are standpipes at each of the 2 stairwells. Hydrants will be located along the driveway and then at the sprinkler room, so you have a connection between the hydrant and the building. Again, stairs, which were relocated to the front of the building, asked that be done. There are no EV chargers that will be installed in the lower level. They'll all be on grade outside the building as requested. Again, there are no windows in that garage such that we've got to have mechanical ventilation of that garage per international mechanical code. There was a question concerning access for a fire truck on all 3 sides. Jason had explained that we had added side access to the building, south and north, so they had actually access to 3 sides of the building that was being provided. You're allowed to have, from any of those points that you have fire truck access, you're allowed to have a 450-foot long travel area, which we provided in the back, and level access for them to fight a fire from the rear. Condensers, there are 96 condensing units that will be on the roof. They're shown on the plan. Shown on the plan here. In the middle. Solar panels, again, no solar panels on the roof. Underground fire suppression, which Jason pointed out in the rear of the building, there will be 2 15,000-gallon tanks. We are currently negotiating with the Regional Water Authority for a design for the fire suppression, providing water on site. And a question, how often and as closely is the building monitored? The office is open between 9 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and monitored 24/7 with cameras and alarms. That just puts into the record what we talked about with the fire chief and fire marshal.
So, good evening. For the record, my name is Matt Baldino, licensed professional engineer, certified professional traffic operations engineer, and roadway safety professional. Here on behalf of the project to discuss the traffic. As previously mentioned, the traffic report originally prepared by Banesh was prepared by Steve Ullman, another professional engineer who has since retired. Solely Engineering has reviewed that report that was prepared initially for the site, as well as the comments that were provided by VN Engineering, again, another professional engineering firm that did review the traffic associated with this project, and agrees with the conclusion of no substantial impact to the roadway network. I did want to quickly provide an overview of the traffic operations and how the traffic study is conducted to provide some additional information to the Commission. So in traffic engineering, the first thing that we do is we look to understand the roadway network and how it operates today. And to do so, we collect traffic volume data for the adjacent roadway network. In this scenario, we did the analysis was performed for the site driveway, as well as the adjacent intersection of the site driveway with Rimmon Road and Park Lane and Sonia Road, just up the road from this site as well. Once we gain an understanding of the roadway conditions as they operate today, so that is essentially done to provide validity and set up your analysis so that you're creating a baseline that mimics conditions today. The next 2 analyses points that you would look at are what's called a no-build or a background. So that is projecting the traffic volumes on the roadway network forward into the future without the development trips. And then we look at the build condition, which would be that projection of traffic volumes under experienced growth that we anticipate for the area, and then adding the traffic volumes associated with this development. A development of this nature, I've done many residential developments across the state. The way that residential developments are conducted is you typically look at the weekday morning and the weekday evening peak hours of the adjacent street traffic. Those are typically, what most refer to as the rush hour of the road. So that's during the weekday morning. It's an hour that occurs typically between 7 and 9 a.m. And then another hour that typically occurs somewhere between 4 and 6 p.m. Again, typically reflective in a residential property like this of traveling to or from work. Under this development, in order to project the traffic associated with the development proposes 96 units. And what we use is what's called the ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. I have extensive experience with this manual and applying this manual within the state of Connecticut. We have conducted many studies throughout the state, which have also done locally in order to provide a comparison of the ITE Trip Generation Manual to what's experienced in communities throughout Connecticut. We've found that manual projects traffic very accurately for what we are seeing. In many of those scenarios, we've seen lower trips than what we project using that manual, but again, referring to that manual because that manual is utilized across all traffic engineering to project traffic anticipated for this development. And that's done by collecting studies of other locations and then providing the trips associated with that. So a development of this nature in the weekday morning, again during that weekday morning peak hour, we would anticipate 31 trips associated with those. 7 of those would be entering and 24 of those would be exiting. Again, in the PM, the traffic patterns with these kinds of developments switch. So in the PM, you would have 23 entering and 15 exiting for 38 trips on the roadway network. Now, as mentioned by many of my colleagues, this site is located on a state road. This site would be subject to a CTDOT encroachment permit. That encroachment permit is a very comprehensive review from multiple engineers within the department. Those engineers will look at both the traffic and operational analysis that was performed for this site. They will also look at the construction sequencing of this site. And lastly, as Jason described in our stormwater management system, they would also look at the stormwater system because of the historic nature of the site, that some of it did flow over land to Fountain Street, and we would show the reduction in stormwater directly into the state right away. So those that all would be under the review of the DOT as well, adding another professional that would be reviewing that work before a permit was issued, allowing the driveway on this site. Like I mentioned, we had reviewed both the original traffic engineering memo or report prepared by Benesh Engineering. We also reviewed the comments prepared by BN Engineering, and then the updated report by Benesh as well. Since that report was completed, the DOT did also release additional roadway data for Fountain Street in the vicinity of the site with speed data. We updated both our site plan, grading plan, based on that speed data to ensure that we had adequate site distance exiting the site driveway. So as you can see on this rendering here, that front portion kind of from the property line to the road, that's shown as new landscape or new lawn. There would be clearing associated with that within the right-of-way, again subject to the DOT review and approval. And that would allow for adequate site distance looking left out of the site driveway as well as looking right out of the site driveway under the culvert of the Merritt Parkway on our east side there. So Soli did provide a review. We do conclude this review included a safety analysis of accident history throughout the area, operational analysis of the driveway, as well as the sight lines as well. Soli agrees with the statement that both Benesh as well as BN's comprehensive review that there would be no substantial impact to the roadway network as a result of this development. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Attorney Nutt to conclude.
Thank you, Matt. Mr. Chairman, that's all we have. I think what you said at the beginning was that the commission may take an opportunity to ask our consultants any questions as to whether you want to try to do that from your seats or do it.
We're gonna sit. We're gonna move back.
Okay.
Yeah. Field trip. Yeah, field trip. I beat you, Paul. Commission members, questions?
I do have 2 questions.
Sarah.
So it's probably addressed to most of you as well, but
I'm going to interrupt you, I'm sorry. I'm just going to have our presenters come over here so that they have a shorter walk and can get faster.
Increasing the traffic. Sorry, it's a problem.
for the DOT review, when is that scheduled? And do they do traffic or traffic and safety?
Can you talk louder?
You gotta speak up.
What you had to do was stand up and speak up so we can hear you.
I can repeat your question. So the question that was asked was when does the DOT encroachment permit review occur? And then I think the second question, kind of follow-up to that was, are they reviewing traffic safety? And what kind of goes into the review? So first, with regards to the encroachment permit, the DOT will not review or issue an encroachment permit until the local approval has been completed. So that would be subsequent to this commission's decision. We have had discussions with them, and I have done numerous developments with them. That review is a comprehensive review. The DOT is somewhat segmental in the different departments that they have that specialize in individual instances. The DOT district office does a review of both the traffic operations, the safety, and then they do have specific drainage engineers as well that review the drainage component of that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
You know, I would just like to ask why this building doesn't have a rear driveway. The building is 352 feet long, it's longer than a football field, and even though you have access for fire supposedly from 3 sides, it's a very long area to have no access, and you have a solid rock wall there. There's probably danger of rock falling over a period of time. I think the access is very poor there, and I don't think it's very safe. It was seen that this should have been designed to have enough room to have a driveway behind the building. I don't think it would have been, I think it's not a good design in that sense. The other, we mentioned something about a space for the fire, 20-foot, some 20-foot space for ladders. I don't follow where that was. Where is that?
So to be clear, Pat Rose did meet with both your fire chief and your fire marshal. We provided a memo detailing responses to all their comments, both the ones they supplied to us in writing and at the hearing. They are satisfied with this design. The building is entirely sprinklered. I will tell you that this is not an uncommon design in terms of providing access to 3 sides, and that is sufficient, provided there's an area behind the building where they can put ladders. So this is far from an unusual condition, and the 2 experts that are employed by your town have said that this design is fine. In terms of, I'm sure I'll get to the second question with regards to this rock wall.
Well, you mentioned about putting ladders in. How much space do you have to put ladders in? There was some comment about a 20-foot space or something for ladders. I just wondered whether they set up the ladders, they climb up in the ladder and go backward against the wall. The firemen wouldn't be able to keep their balance on the ladders with the room that's there.
If there's a 20-foot area behind the building for them to set up ladders as required. The fully sprinkler building has standpipes in the stairwell so they can fight a fire inside the building. The only reason you'd be setting up ladders is if you had a reason to rescue somebody through a window.
But that's a good reason, man. And if you have 20 feet, why do you make it a little wider and have a driveway there?
I went over this with the fire chief and the fire marshal, and they said it was enough for access. It's also as per the
I know
code.
it fits the code, but you've got common sense to this, and I don't think a building this long should have no access to
You're actually allowed to have 450 feet.
I know that you're saying that, but if you had a very bad fire in this building, you'd be very sorry about not having adequate access, and I just don't think it was well designed. Yeah, I had a couple of other questions here. I wondered why this building, you have 96 apartments, a lot of people living in it, why do you have just one elevator? It seems that, elevators do break down. What's going to happen if people really count on the elevator to get up and down from the place? It just seems very short-sighted to just have one elevator. I'm sure there must be some regulation that you're meeting, but honestly, it's not a reasonable design this day and age to have one elevator with so many apartments, a 5-level building, including the lodge. I'm surprised that you just have one elevator.
The standard of design in a residential building, apartment building, is one elevator up to 100 apartments.
There you go.
The standard of design, fast elevators, they break down there, somebody will come in and fix it, they'll have a maintenance contract and keep it running.
I think
What about the snow?
have more than one elevator with 100 apartments. Maybe that's the minimum standard. But you're putting up a new building, you want the tenants to have reasonable access to an elevator. In the 96 apartments, people will be waiting, and somebody moving in, and tying up the elevator and moving in. It just seems very inadequate. And the other thing I mentioned about the water drainage from the garage. Initially, we had it going through not going into the actual sanitary drainage, but now you have to do that. The building has an 8-inch pipe for the entire building, an 8-inch sanitary drain. Do you really feel that that pipe can handle flow from the garage plus all the building apartments? Or is it adequate for that?
Regarding, Jason Montagno, regarding that size, that will all be coordinated with Greater New Haven WPCA as the plans get submitted, and we perform the flow metering, that if any of the pipes for any reason need to be upsized, they will. However, there won't be as much water as you think within those catch basins because above, that's all underground, that's covered. So that would be an event of some mild runoff that gets collected from the cars as they go down and melts or some sort of spillage. So that should be treated accordingly.
Also, as far as the traffic study, you have 96 apartments, 144 parking spaces. How did you come up with such a small figure of people entering and exiting during peak hours? You have all these models, but it just doesn't make any sense.
So, for the record, Matt Baltino, licensed restaurant engineer. So, again, as you know, traffic engineers, what we can utilize to understand the traffic flows is studies of these similar developments that are composed of the same kind of unit breakdown. The ITE manual breaks it out under, you know, how many floors is the building, and how many units. So what it does is we're looking at comparable volumes based off of what's been collected at other sites. So the analysis and the projected traffic volumes for the morning and the evening peak hours are based off of what's been experienced at other sites. Again, these are peak hour volumes, and we are looking at those specific hours as those are the greatest potential for impact on the adjacent road, because those are when the road volumes are the highest. In a scenario like this, the road volumes are really what drive the potential for impact, because the road volumes fluctuate and have a much higher volume than the site-generated traffic. So that's why we really look at those specific uses. The ITE manual, in my experience and what I've been finding, again, is providing conservative analysis based on other locations that we have collected data at other residential facilities. It does not necessarily reflect some of the post-pandemic trends where people are working from home, just because there is a parking spaces and traffic on a roadway sound like they connect a lot more than the reality of them connecting. Not every car leaves the site at the same time during the same hour. Not every car returns. There are scenarios where you see much more densely driven traffic, and it's like a movie theater where a movie lets out and you see a big flux. That's a sporting event that finishes. Developments of this nature have a lot more fluctuality in the traffic patterns of not everyone's leaving for work at the exact same time. And what we're presenting is what occurs in the peak hour. And again, that people leaving for work may be spread out over more than that specific hour. But we're looking at that specific hour as it's the greatest potential.
I don't know, I've driven down that road for 45 years, and the traffic is my experience is much
Speak up,
busier.
please.
My experience with that road is it's much busier than recording from the measurements. And I think that the traffic coming out of this side going into it is going to be a lot worse than the same. But I realize you have these tables and models, and that's what you're basing it on. But I don't think it's going to turn out to be that ready project.
Commissioner Wishing, I will tell you, on the 4 issues you brought up, fire, drainage, traffic, you have your fire marshal and your fire chief. You have the peer reviewer from Jim Preddy, and you have your own peer reviewer with regard to traffic. The elevator complies with code. I would respectfully suggest that your own staff, your own peer reviewers agree with our team.
Attorney, now, can I follow up with the fire discussions with you?
Yes.
So, you have oral comments from the town fire department, town fire marshal, that these changes were acceptable. Did they put something in writing? Do we have that as submitted? Maybe I haven't seen it yet, Chris, or?
We have a memo prepared by Pat Rose that sets forth all of their questions and comments and our responses. If you want to reach back out to them and ask if they have any responses to our comments, we're happy to do that. But, I mean, we're confident that they are satisfied with this design.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I just have one more, if anybody else goes ahead.
All right, one more, please, go ahead.
Okay.
Sure.
The other thing, no one today spoke about the school situation and the impact on the schools. And I think that this building really creates a situation where it's going to attract a lot of people to move into the building to be able to have either Beecher Road School or Amity Road School. And if you look at the cost of private schools in the area, like Foot School, K-5 is $32,650. By the time you get up to 9th grade, it's $43,460. Hopkins is over $50,000. So here, people, rather than buying a house or renting in New Haven and then having to pay for these private schools, here they can move into this building, occupy one of the apartments, and pay the rent there, and they're saving a lot of money on a good school, and I think it will attract people. And the town currently is facing a crisis in terms of space in Beecher Road School and in Amity. We really have major construction costs. This project will tremendously increase that. And no one from your presentation discussed it this time. You did in an earlier presentation, had somebody talking about this, but not tonight. So I'm just bringing that up because I think it's a continuing issue.
Again, the town's own consultants, Justin LaFountain.
Don't say it. 7 kids. Don't say it.
And we supplied a memo showing what the school population has been historically over the past 15 to 20 years, and it is still below what its peak was.
This project has got a big potential to lead to an increase. You mentioned that it's an attraction for people to get good school and at much lower cost. I think these 2-bedroom apartments, even 1-bedroom apartments, will bring people in.
And I would respectfully suggest that the addition of school children is not a special permit criteria.
I don't care about that.
Okay, folks, can we just stand over for a minute? We're gonna have, I'm sure he's gonna have.
Can I ask the question? So,
And not right now, ma'am, not right now. We all want to hear everything you have to say, but not right now. Thank you.
maybe for Mr. Knopf, maybe for Mr. Montagno. So, Mr. Montagno, you mentioned that the revised design of the emergency vehicle access lane demonstrates compliance with the fire code. Was the previous design of that southwest drive out of compliance with the fire code?
I don't believe there was a wide enough access on that southern side, so now we've provided that by providing the 20 feet.
Okay, so it was previously out of compliance with the fire code.
That I was not the original designer, so I'm not entirely sure on that now.
Was any other part of the plan out of compliance with the fire code?
Not that I'm aware of.
You mentioned the addition of 2 underground fire suppression tanks. Is that a new design Is that an updated proposal, or were those present in the previous proposal as well?
Yeah, those were in the previous one.
Thank you.
Paul, sure. I don't know who's going to, I have a couple of follow-ups. So first, it was mentioned about, there was stormwater management system on the first storm has a manhole cover or a manhole, and then it swirls around and separates the water from the trash. Is that, did I get that right?
Yeah, it's a swirling vortex, you could say, that helps remove the coarser sediment and the floatables, and it kind of contains that and allows the stormwater that's cleaner to then exit and go into the infiltration system.
Is it all based on gravity?
Yeah, it has a whole mechanism. It's almost easier for me to show you a video about it.
What happens to the trash that's collected?
So in that actual system?
Yeah.
So there's a maintenance protocol that gets established with these hydrodynamic separators. So that there's actually a way to access it and clean out that trash and everything that gets collected.
So a human being goes in, cleans out, and disposes of the trash. Okay, thank you. And then on the, was the second driveway contemplated at all? So I know, Bob talked about the backside of the building. Was the second driveway to make it a horseshoe contemplated?
That would further increase the cuts required on site and the limited disturbance and further encroach that back into that tree line that I know that we're trying to preserve as well. So we went with what was required for the three sides.
So all the cars come in and out of the same driveway?
That's correct. They're all entering and exiting out. So one drive and Pound Street.
And Bob, I have not driven, I'm close to 45 years driving in this road. So we're similar. My office is down there, so I drive down there every day. And in the winter, which I'm sure you guys haven't been able to see yet, but the winter, Fountain Street, when we do have inclement weather, backs up from the bottom all the way up the hill. Many times it grinds to a halt. So I'm just trying to figure out how in the inclement weather, whether it's freezing rain or snow or sleet, how our cars can get in and out when the traffic is sufficiently backed up that hill.
Very difficult. Wave your magic wand.
So, again, for the record. So the way this site was designed, and I just kind of want to elaborate on the first question first, was with regards to one access or horseshoe. So if I'm understanding correctly, you were looking to say, why is there not another horseshoe connection onto Fountain Street?
Yeah.
And really what's driving both the driveway location, the driveway design, is the topography of this site and making sure that there's adequate sight lines from looking at the driveway. So that's what led to positioning this access on the eastern side. With respect to entering and exiting the roadway in inclement weather, this site and the way it's designed with the access drive allows for a lot of storage of vehicles internal to its site. So there may be a time if it's backed up, which we don't anticipate in normal operating conditions to be the scenario where it's blocking a driveway. If in inclement weather there was some scenario, we have adequate design for cars to wait at our driveway without impeding any other circulation on this site. The way the driveway is designed, it allows for that. So there may be a time in inclement weather in a scenario where there could be queuing. But we have adequate design to not have that impact us negatively impact that, or kind of expand on that impact if there was one.
Thank you. Another question and a follow-up was on the elevator. So I may be wrong. Who's the elevator gentleman? There's an architect. So I assume, and I don't know how to read the designs, but is it an elevator bank or one single elevator?
One single elevator.
So curious, was the second one, I know you know the code, I don't. Was the second elevator contemplated just for ease and convenience of the residents?
Was not contemplated normally, under 100 units, you have one elevator. We've done 15 of these facilities. And when you're under 100, you have one. When you're over 100, you have two elevators.
Hydraulics?
They're not hydraulic.
They're traction.
Okay, he got a question.
So where's the freight elevator?
So,
Are you blasting?
I am pledging on behalf of my client and my team that we will treat the commission and the public and the interveners with respect. And I'm simply asking that the public treat our consultants with respect as well. We will answer every question from every corner at the appropriate time. And that's all I'm simply asking. We will be respectful, and we're simply asking for it to be treated the exact same way.
I agree, Ms. Nutt, thank you so much for your comments. I agree with you. Please, members of the public, if we could just be respectful. We want to listen to all the things you have to say. We want to listen to the applicants. Thank you very much.
And with regard to the elevator, no one's being forced to live here. If someone comes in and says, gee, I would prefer a building with 2 elevators, they don't have to live here. This is complies with the code. Again, it's another issue that is irrelevant to the special exception.
We're forced to live here.
Another question was regarding, my last question, I think my last question, regarding the traffic. Can you comment, I thought you made a comment about the number of stories. Was there a comment about the number of stories had some correlation to the amount of traffic, or did I get that wrong?
So ITE breaks up each individual, when we're projecting traffic volumes, it provides a breakdown of if it's a low rise, so 1 to 3 stories, 3 to 7 stories is a mid rise, and then a high rise. So it breaks up those. There's very little difference between the actual trip generation of those, but they do break those up because there is some slight fluctuation based on the stories. The trip generation calculation itself, the independent variable, if you would, is the number of units. So that is what's driving the main number associated with traffic volumes. But ITE wants to provide as much accurate information and applicable information to each individual project. So it breaks up multifamily by location. Is it in an urban or suburban area? Then is it, how many stories is it? It's really trying to use that data to classify and find the most applicable data to suit the need in the community. So it's more driven by that. You see that in high rises, it is lower, but high rises are typically located in much denser environments. If that, hopefully that answers your question.
I understand, thanks.
Any more commission member questions?
I guess this is for the architect. Can you comment on, speak up please, can you comment on the fire rating of the building, the fire code? I know that there's hour ratings between units, self-closing doors, something like that, that
Correct.
this building will be built to?
It would be built to the state building code, which requires a 3-hour separation between the parking and the residential, an hour separation between all the residential floors and the roof, and an hour separation between the corridor and the units, and between each unit.
Can you just explain, please, what that means, an hour?
It means that if you have a wall-type construction that is sheetrock and wood studs and maybe plywood, but it has been tested to withstand 1 hour with a flame put on it, in a test chamber.
Thank you.
Any final questions from the commission?
I've got one more, sorry.
Oh, so Paul, your final question.
Maybe so people can go home and I ordered pizza. Who is the person on the water coming out of the property? Who's commenting on that?
That's Jason. Stormwater?
Yeah. I don't know if you were here at the last hearing, but at least one person from the public had commented that they live at the bottom of Fountain Street, and during severe storms, the water presently flows down the hill and floods their property. So I want to understand, are you saying that this property, is it net zero, net neutral, that won't be any additional water flowing down Fountain Street Woods to the right of Fountain Street?
Great question. So yes, we have to design, our design has to either have a zero or a net reduction in the flows for certain storm events. For Woodbridge's regulations, that's the 1, 2, the 5, 10, 25, 50, and 100-year storm. So we're required for all of our drainage analyses to reduce those flows. So based on what we're going to be building. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks.
Just in connection with that, you mentioned that at the bottom of the driveway, we're going to have two catch basins to prevent water from going out onto the fountain street. What capacity do those have before they'll be filled up and go out onto the fountain street?
So, another good question. So we run those, so we have a pipe network, so we use our software and it's able to insert all the catch basin locations and the piping and certain sizes it has. And then we run that and we're able to analyze how much does this catch basin fill up during a 25-year storm event or the 50 or the 100-year. So we're able to analyze that and figure out if those catch basins are going to surcharge and then pour water out. So with Woodbridge's regs, we were able to design with the 25-year storm, and we did not surcharge or have water coming out of any of those inlets at the end of the driveway.
Mr. Jeff, thank you. Appreciate the presentation time. Thank you very much. Chair recognizes interveners. We have one or two people speaking. If you could just give your name and who you're representing. Thank you.
Brenton Elliott from Tangarry, Cone, and Haven, on behalf of the Woodbridge Land Trust and Woodbridge Park Association. In an effort to move things along, because I know that the applicant's presentation went more than twice what it was represented to go, we're going to move ahead with having Steve Trinkus from Trinkus Engineering with our presentation.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Trinkus. I'm a licensed professional engineer from Southbury, Connecticut. I've been licensed since 1988, but my experience actually goes back to the late 1970s when I was in college. I'm an expert in low impact development, which is a focus on water quality and volume, and also what practices are appropriate. We've heard the applicant's presentation tonight about stormwater. I'm going to bring a little reality to the table. Permeable pavers, whether you're talking paving stones with gravel between them or PVC pavers with topsoil and grass, porous concrete, porous asphalt, these are all what we call low-impact development practices designed as a source control to allow rainfall to simply infiltrate into the surface of the material and infiltrate into the underlying soil. Infiltration in these practices has to be in native soils, what we call Class A or Class B soils. These would be A soils are sand and gravel, B soils are sandy loam. While you can put them in Class C soils, there are design modifications that must occur. When you look at the applicant's plan and the grading due to the rock cut, these systems are going to be well below the grade, in many cases either on top of or deep into the bedrock that they're blasting out. The 2024 DEP manual, which was referenced earlier by the applicant, requires a 3-foot separation between the bottom of the practice and bedrock. And if you're in bedrock, I would simply submit you don't meet the requirement. It's also not appropriate to overblast and put dirt underneath the system because you're still in a bedrock environment. So the two permeable paver systems are what I heard actually way back in 2008 at a conference called greenwashing. Greenwashing is putting practices on the plan that make it look green but are dysfunctional and therefore not green as far as that goes. When we look at the large stormwater management system, the bottom of it is at elevation 281. The finished pavement is at 300. This system is 19 feet below grade. And there's only a couple of inspection ports, but who is going to go down 19 feet in an OSHA environment that requires special training and equipment, because that's a confined space by OSHA, to clean the galleries out? They're 19 feet below grade. This room is 9-foot ceiling, so think about it, how deep it is underground. Furthermore, catch basins with a 24-inch deep sump will remove 5% of total suspended solids. A sump with is 48 inches deep will only remove 9%. That's not very much. The applicant's proposing online separators, and I will tell you every manufacturer, whether it's Contact or Technic, there's a host of them, they will all represent
that they can move 80 to 85, 90% of total suspended solids. The manufacturers want to sell you a $25,000 or $30,000 line item. They do not work that well. The configuration the applicant proposes is what we term online, means one pipe comes in, one pipe goes out. Therefore, all of the water, no matter what the storm event, whether it's a water quality storm, which is 1.3 inches of rain in 24 hours, or a 25-year storm, which maybe is roughly 6.5 inches in 24 hours, pass through the systems. In that configuration, the TSS, or total suspended solid removal rate, based on the New Hampshire Stormwater Center data, is 29%. If you look at the American Society of Civil Engineers BMP database, which is, again, both of these are field monitoring results. These are not lab results. They are at 38% average for online versus an offline configuration. So you're never going to get to the 80% removal that's stated in the 24 manual. This claim that gets repeated numerous times that if you provide the water quality volume, or what the manual says, the retention volume, within your practice, magically, it is assumed, which is a very bad word to use in engineering, that you will achieve those pollutant renovations. A project I recently reviewed in Simsbury had a dry detention pond proposed, and these were what detention ponds were back in the late 70s and 80s when people started worrying about stormwater. A dry pond, per the manual, is moderate for sediment removal, it's low for nutrient removal, both nitrogen and phosphorus. So you have a practice that cannot provide the level of water quality the DEP is looking for. It doesn't matter how much water you hold, whether it's 1.3 inches, whether it's 5 inches, whether it's 8 inches. The practice is simply incapable of providing the treatment. We've heard that the applicant is claiming this is an infiltration basin. They're using a rate of 0.52 inches per hour. They have not performed infiltration testing. That is the gold standard in these systems, and I will submit that if you're 19 or 20 feet below ground, the manual requires you to do double ring infiltration tests at or below that layer, because that's where the water is going to go. A test done at the existing ground surface is quite honestly meaningless. But they're claiming an infiltration rate with absolutely no data to support it. And if you take infiltration out of the equation, two things happen. One, you will have increased runoff volumes, because the zero increase requirements of the Woodbridge regulations are peak rate. That means if I had 10 cubic feet per day leaving the site, and after development it was proposed to have 100 CFS, I have to dig a pond or some other system and make an outlet structure that only lets it out at 10. And that's called peak rate attenuation. However, that does not reduce runoff volume. Runoff volume is only done by infiltration. That's the primary way to do it. Increase runoff volume, and I will go back a year ago to what Southbury, Oxford, Seymour, and probably other parts of Connecticut hit, but we were at kind of ground zero. The August 18th storm, which dropped 10.5 inches of rain in my house in 11 hours. And I will tell you, the reason we had so much flooding was 6 inches of that fell in 3 hours. And 2 hours after the heavy rain stopped, many of our streams in Southbury were back to their nominal levels. It was that plug of water, that volume, which caused the flooding issues in all of those communities. So the system as proposed with the large underground system is not going to meet the water quality standards cited by DEP. The smaller system located at the bottom of the driveway, we only have catch basins going into an underground gallery. We don't even have a separator there, so you're not meeting water quality treatment at that point. The permeable pavers, again, are a nice, pretty thing to put on the plan, but they're not going to function as intended at all, as far as that goes. I've gone through many, more detailed points within my report, which was submitted, but the bottom line is this site, as proposed, will not address non-point source pollutants. They'll be discharged, instead of going out to Fountain Street, will be discharged on the slope above the off-site wetland area, and ultimately we'll get into that wetland area and move further downstream. You'll also have increased runoff volumes being discharged to that wetland corridor. The problem with increased runoff volumes, when you're taking concentrated flow and discharging it onto an upland slope, where the slope has never experienced concentrated flow, even if you have a riprap apron at the end of your pipe, you will have significant erosion of that upland slope, because the slope is not used to seeing concentrated flow. It's used to seeing overland flow from a forest. I have a Bachelor of Science in Forestry, so I'm going to take my engineering hat off a little bit to talk about forestry. You know, forests are a magical item in my professional opinion because they, A, take in carbon dioxide, they give us oxygen back. They also provide rainfall interception, whether it's the twigs during the winter or the leaves during the summer, where much of the rainfall that falls never reaches the ground as drops of rain. It runs down the trunk and the branches, hits the fluffy forest litter layer, and basically infiltrates into the ground. When you clear cut the site, you lose all of those benefits. You also lose all of the carbon sequestering that occurs within any woody vegetation, whether it's grasses all the way up to 30-inch oak trees. But you also lose the carbon sequestering that goes a meter deep into the soil. So there's a lot of environmental impacts when we clear cut large sites here. This site, for the most part, between the rock cut, the building, the parking lot, there's no infiltration occurring anywhere. So these runoff volumes now are going to be discharged to one pipe on an upland slope, and it is going to erode that. One of the issues we had in the late 70s and early 80s in Reading, where I grew up and cut my teeth in land use, they had adopted a 50-year stormwater requirement, peak rate control. And these basins were designed in the very early days of peak rate control. And most of the basins were kind of, out at the end of the subdivision, where stormwater always winds up being. And fast forward to today, this was a hard pan site, Class C soils where you had a perched water table about 18, 20 inches below grade. The outlets of every one of these basins, we have canyons that are yay deep, about yay wide, because of that concentrated flow being placed on an upland slope that never saw concentrated flow. So these are environmental impacts that you'll have. This project will not adequately address stormwater, in my professional opinion, especially from a water quality and volumetric standpoint. Thank you. One last thing, the applicant cited, how much they have to blast out of the site. Well, when you blast rock does what we term in the engineering world, and it's not a technical term, it fluffs up. In place, it's nice solid little cube. When you take that cube and dynamite it, it gets bigger in volume. So the applicant cites, let me just find my comment, how many yards are taken out of the site. It would take 1,970 yards to remove 66,000 yards of material, according to their application. A typical triaxle dump truck would take 17 yards of material. Therefore, you're going to take almost 3,900 truck trips to get the material out. Not 2,000, almost double that. And that's assuming, the rock comes out in relatively small pieces. Not knowing and I'm not a geologist, but rock can come out well fractured, or it can come out in size of rocks like the size of your tables here. Big pieces that then have to be broken up into smaller, or if you put the big pieces in a dump truck, you even get less per truck simply because of how big they are. So there's going to be a lot more truck traffic leaving the site to remove the rock that's going to be blasted out of here. And again, that is a traffic issue because it's not a peak hour, but it's Monday through Friday at whatever hours the Woodbridge allows blasting to occur, which typically most communities are 7 to 5. So you could have trucks going in and out of here for a long time to remove 70,000 yards or 66,000 yards of material. Thank you.
We can make Mr. Trinkus available for questions from the commission if that's the next step.
Please do so. Thank you so much. Any commission members, any questions? Mr. Trinkus?
The quality of the rock on this site, I think, is it, in terms of where it's going to be taken, does it have significant value for fill, or is it not very good?
I think the environmental consultant Sigrun has talked about the type of rock that it is. That's not my area of expertise, but from her memo, it seems to suggest that the rock does not have a commercial value just because of the nature of the rock.
One of the reports, in terms of lean ice or something like that, was the type of rock, and as I recall, it implied that it doesn't have much commercial value. I'm just wondering, where do they have a place to put this, all this, nobody have a place where you can put this? Is it in?
I would ask the question for the applicant, because I don't know. I mean, you know, one of the issues on any construction site is when you have a lot of excavation, you know, if somebody else needs the fill, you know, it's easy to get rid of. If they don't need the fill, it's a problem to get rid of. And I don't know where the applicant's proposing to take, you know, 66,000 yards.
Mr. Trinkus, spend some time telling us about the online versus offline configuration for water management. I think I followed much of that. Can you help me understand why any builder, you know, maybe using this project as an example, would choose an online versus an offline configuration?
Because the manufacturers, in my professional opinion, will do a nice report citing that their separator will move 85 to 90% TSS. However, it's based on lab testing with generally uniform silica sands. In many cases, I saw one years ago from Rinker Materials, it had 20% of 5 different gradations of sand. I would submit you could not find that gradation in the real world. It's manufactured stormwater, it's manufactured pollutants, it's in a controlled environment. That's why they get these high numbers. The UNH data, I attended UNH back in the late 70s. The Stormwater Center came online in 2004. It's a 9-acre commuter parking lot at campus where it all drained at one point, and the research team developed a system to monitor in equal proportions all different types of stormwater practices, standard detention ponds, bioretention, permeable pavements, you name it. And the value of their research was, one, it's field data. Two, you know, if something broke, they figured out why it broke. And then they figured out, you know, a new standard to fix. And they've been monitoring this for the past 21 years. And there's annual reports on their website. You go to University of New Hampshire Stormwater Center, you can find them. An offline separator is where there is a manhole upstream of the separator where only the water quality flow, which is a flow rate associated with the water quality volume, is directed to the separator. The other flows are bypassed around it. That can bring up the removal efficiency to about 75% of TSS. The applicant is correct, they do require maintenance. One of the issues with underground systems is they are underground. Out of sight equates to out of mind. I will say in Southbury we have many projects other people have done where we have online separators, and I know for a fact, because I know a couple of businesses in there, since they were instituted, they've been cleaned out once, probably 10 or 15 years. These systems require maintenance to function. The online systems, you know, the larger flows, there is what they call an internal bypass to the structure. However, the larger flow events will, you know, disturb what's already settled out and put it back in suspension. And if the flow is large enough, that suspended material then leaves. And, you know, the online versus offline. Offline will be better, but it's still not adequate to meet the deep standards.
Does the online configuration have a smaller footprint?
No, they're the same structure. It's just that in one case, the online, all of the storm water, one pipe in, one pipe out. In an offline configuration, you have a pipe that goes from a manhole into the separator, another one that bypasses larger flows around the separator, but it's the same structure. Basically, you're limiting the flow rate going into it, and that raises the efficiency of the system to function properly.
Is it more expensive to construct an offline system?
You know, it's a little bit more expensive. It's not the end of the world.
And last question, failure to maintain those deep underground collections of the separated materials will result in greater amounts of suspended solids making its way into...
Well, if the separator is not collecting all the sediments and it gets into the bottom of the system, which is now on a soil surface, it doesn't take much in depth, maybe a ½ inch to an inch of collected fine sediments. We're talking silts and clays that can clog the soil surface at the bottom of the infiltration practice. And if you do have infiltration rates, which we don't have the data for now, then that would reduce the infiltration into the native soils. All types of stormwater systems need maintenance, and they need to be designed with that in mind. And something that's 19 foot below grade is simply never going to get maintained. That's the reality.
Thank you. Any other questions?
In layman's terms, I'm trying to understand a question I asked earlier. So do you disagree with the applicant that it's a net neutral or negative amount of water that would flow down the hill from the property down Fountain Street?
Down to the discharge point, yes, I absolutely disagree with that because they're assuming infiltration is occurring, which reduces runoff. If infiltration does not occur or occurs at a much slower rate, there'll be increased rate and runoff volume being discharged from the site.
So because you're both saying two very different things, obviously. Where is the scientific, how do we determine what the scientific proof says on infiltration? This is way above my pay grade.
Okay. Actually, it's above many people's pay grades. Okay, in the 24 manual, they require infiltration tests in, sea soils, which are like a hard pan-based soil. The manual, in my professional opinion, really is actually a step down from what we had in 2004 because they're making assumptions in this manual that are not supported from the science. They're allowing applicants to use what's called Rawls rates, R-A-W-L-S. Rawls rates are national infiltration rates for every soil type. They're back in 1982, so 40-year-old data. And I will tell you, on a given site, you could have sand and gravel. You could have, in the fine sands, you might get 10, 15 feet per day infiltration rate. In a coarse sand and gravel, that's 250 feet per day. So you can't take national averages and apply them to a given site here in Connecticut or anywhere else. You need to do the infiltration testing. You need to prove, if you're claiming infiltration, you need to prove that your site will function that way. And the testing must be done at or below the bottom of the system. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Mr. Elliott, anything else that you'd like to add or any further comments? Thank you for coming. Anything else you'd like to add?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So that concludes the intervener comments under a combined public hearing on 804 Fountain Street. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we're going to just stand up, turn around, sit back down 5 minutes, all right? And we'll go right to public comment. I'll have a couple of comments about that, and then we want to hear what you have to say. Okay? Good? All right. Good evening. Welcome back to the 804 Fountain Street public discussion and the combined public hearing for 804 Fountain Street. We're now moving into the section of public comment where we want to hear what you have to say. The public hearing is for the purpose of listening to your comments. You'll each have 3 minutes for a brief statement into the record. TPZ members and the applicants will not be answering questions that are raised, but we will take note of what you have to say and they'll be part of the record. Your public comments and also written comments, which I would encourage people to provide, which we all read, as commissioners read them, send in those comments. You can submit them to Town Hall and they're part of the public record for the TPC consideration of the application. As a reminder to everyone, off-the-record communication with a member of the commission on the merits of the application is prohibited. And finally, please keep your comments brief, respectful, and focused on the special exception permit and the material at hand to avoid unreasonable repetition. If you've already spoken before on the matter of 804 Fountain Street, I'd ask that you not speak this evening again, unless you have something that you think especially the commission needs to hear. But otherwise, you'll just be taking up time from other folks who we want to hear. So with that, we have a sign-up sheet, and that is up over there. You just need to sign up when you come in, state your name, your address, and please let us know what you have to say. All right? First person.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I just note for the record that we were just submitted a letter from the Connecticut Botanical Society. It's dated October 6, 2025. So that's for your record. Copies are being sent down, and I will give a copy to Attorney Nutt. And there was also, since the September 2nd hearing, there was 34 different emails and submissions that were made. They've been listed for the chairman, but in the effort to get people to be able to speak instead of listening to that, they will be, as was done with the September 2nd minutes, noted in the record, and all of those have been scanned and sent to the commission members, to the intervener's attorney, and to Attorney Nuff. So they are all out there in the public press.
Will they be posted on the website, did you say?
I haven't been posting them because it takes a lot, but I can certainly post them. But they're there, and they are all listed in the thing in order of when they came in.
We'll have that done. Mrs. Sullivan was on vacation.
Yeah, unfortunately I came back.
All right, please say your name and welcome and thank you.
Certainly. Robert Zasco, Westward Road. Good evening. Packed room once again, despite the different venue, but I think it's pretty clear that the feeling and the energy in the town, and probably in broader strokes since the last time we've met and engaged in public comment on these 3 special exception applications, is that the community isn't in favor of this. I think that's pretty clear. It is one where, on a personal level, I'm wondering what the purpose of the TPZ regs are. When I read the TPZ regs, I see that they are supposed to support public health, welfare, and safety. Perhaps not written in those that order, but I think we've heard a lot that makes us wonder if this building is actually going to do any of those. We've heard about potential flooding, we've heard about water runoff, we've heard about water, excessive water flowing down the road. We've heard about the fact that there are going to be people that live in this structure and children that are going to live in this structure. What's the safety ramifications for that? We've got a lot of, well, this will be done this way in the future, but we don't have a lot of concrete evidence that it's actually going to be done. And so I hope that this commission listens to what the public is saying, and I hope that they do deny this set of applications. One other thing that strikes me is the fact that this is probably the first of many applications. We made amendments to the zoning regulations in December of 2024. Those revisions were made. I'm hearing that developers are offering large sums of money for other properties on Fountain Street and other places throughout Woodbridge. It's only a matter of time before this continues to pop up and we have more and more hearings like this. What's frustrating for me as a resident is that residents have tried to ask Town Plan and Zoning to reverse those changes, to take another crack at it. In fact, as one of the signers back in February of the Steve Mason application, I was really hopeful that that application would be taken seriously. I would really urge the Town Plan and Zoning Commission to think about that once more. You do have the opportunity to revise your agendas. You've got a couple of months ahead of you. But if nothing more, I would certainly hope that starting in January, we have a different vision for how we're going to handle town planning and zoning regulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Javier Vilas, 45 Ansonia Road. I come to you tonight disappointed, and quite honestly, a bit shameful as a resident of the town. The gymnastics that we've undertaken, specifically the former chair of TPZ, to try and stifle public comment, is almost a textbook example of how town government should not work. And I give all of you tonight a compliment for encouraging that process to proceed forward. It's also a bit insulting to hear this project being virtuously spoken about as if it's some sort of moral high ground affordable housing project. And it's not. It's a big market rate apartment building that didn't meet the minimum standards that we as a town had for affordable housing for all new housing developments. And instead of saying no, do better, we changed the rules to allow the applications like this to be heard. And therein lies the heart of the matter. And that's not the only regulation we changed. We changed the density per acre regulation. We changed the limitation of the height limitation in all of residential A with public sewer and public water to allow 4-story apartment buildings now. And we're not even finished considering exceptions. We're still being asked to make another exception for a flat roof, and there's another permit to allow for blasting. So the fatal flaw here is not in the application, it's in the process. It's the zoning changes that we made to enable these kinds of applications to happen. It's unacceptable to have private people, private organizations defending the town of Woodbridge. And this is just the beginning. My neighbors have already received multi-million-dollar offers for their property as a result of these zoning changes. So the process, in my opinion, needs a lot of change. I think the way we populate boards, such as TP&Z, also needs to change. I believe TP&Z should be elected so we can hold you accountable to the voters every 2 years like the rest of our officials. If it feels like you're doing something wrong, and it looks like you're doing something wrong, you're probably doing something wrong. So I don't know how many residents have to show up here with their hair on fire, screaming about how this is wrong, before we realize that this is the wrong type of development in the wrong area, that puts us, it sets aside the safety of its own residents and also those who would prospectively live around it for the sake of developer dollars. So I implore you, please, please decline this application. Thank you.
Donnelly Anderson, 11 Brookside, 1.1 mile from the site. I'm an architect, and I would just like to share some of my expertise as these gentlemen have shared theirs. Building code, we kept hearing it meets the code, it meets the code, it meets the code, it meets the manual requirements. Building code is a minimum. Building codes were established to protect people from fire and damage to their buildings. It's not really always a habitable space. So if you have been impressed by all of the codes that they're meeting, please don't be. It's just not good practice. A good architect goes above and beyond the code. They use it as a guideline, but then they do 2 elevators in a building. Someone mentioned moving day. I've been in buildings where people are moving with 2 elevators and you still can't get up to your apartment. So I agree with the 2 gentlemen before me that the process just hasn't felt comfortable, and I deplore you with them to turn down this application.
I'm Paul Harrigan from 27 Brook Road. With the kind help of Christine Sullivan this afternoon, I learned a little bit about the zoning regulations in Woodbridge. And in section 6.3C and 6.4C, they go through the criteria of what's required for a special exception to be approved. The application has to be consistent with the plan of conservation and development, which this is not. It has to meet public safety standards. We have a volunteer fire department, and our volunteer fire department is not trained to fight a fire in a 4-story, in some parts a 5-story building. We don't have the equipment to do that, so it fails on that count. Traffic and pedestrian access. The building driveway will be on a corner on a steep hill that will require, the traffic study doesn't show this, but it will require a traffic light there. And that will be a recipe for disaster because there will be accidents where people can't get up the hill because of the traffic light, and they can't get down the hill or without hitting the person in front of them in inclement weather. There's circulation and parking in the structure as described by the applicant is not adequate, still not adequate even with the changes they've made. Number 5, the landscaping screening requirements for a special application are not met. It requires that existing trees be preserved to the maximum possible extent, and you're going to clear cut the property. The primary view of the building is going to be from Fountain Street, which is going to be a 5-story building. If you look at the elevations, they're showing you the front of the building, but you're really not going to see from Fountain Street. You're going to see the side of the building, where you're going to see a 5-story building with the parking garage at the first level. The lighting hasn't been described yet in enough detail to comment on. Public health, the sewer line that comes up the hill in past discussions of potential development on the country club property has been described as being not adequate for additional development and needing to be updated and increased, so it doesn't meet the public health standards that were required in the zoning regulations for a special application. The environmental features standard requires that that the site would preserve environmental land features such as steep slopes, wetlands, and large rock outcroppings. They're going to remove basically the side of a hill or a mountain. They're going to remove a large amount of rock and outcroppings. That's the only way they're going to get access to the property to be able to build an apartment building there. It does not meet that standard.
Mr. Harrigan, thank you.
I'm not finished. I'm going to finish. I waited an hour and a half, and I'm going to finish. Yes. All right.
Take another minute, and then you can provide your write-up to the Town Planning Zoning Commission. Mrs. Sullivan would be happy to read it and take it in. But take
I'm not finished wasting my
minute.
time.
Take another minute.
You shouldn't even be on in this meeting. You should recuse yourself.
Yes.
Standard number 9 is regarding the neighborhood, and it's required that the development or the structure be in general harmony with the surrounding neighborhood. We've all seen elevations in this building. It is not in harmony with the neighborhood. Drainage, the applicant's the land trust expert talked about drainage being not adequate. We also talked about soil and erosion and sediment control not being adequate. There's a 12 requirement here that gets into a little bit more detail that I wasn't able to explore this afternoon. But I can tell you that it's required that every one of these standards be met. And I've just listed 11 of them, and none of them have been met.
Mr. Harrigan, thank you for your comments.
Those are tied up there.
Oh.
Yeah, it's hiding.
Oh, it's hiding. I'll give it to you. We have a very high, my name is Paul Ignazio, 54 Pease Road. We have a very high mill rate already. So when you build a building this big, you're going to have families with kids. Now, I'm sure, because this isn't the first meeting that you've had about this building, so you've probably carefully considered the answer to this. How are we going to pay for all the additional children that will be entering the school system? And I hope it's not going to be through additional taxes or raising the mill rate again. Okay? That's all I have to say, and it's very brief. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheryl Worth, 27 Ranch Road. So my understanding is there's 96 units and 146 parking spaces. If 50 units have 2 cars, that's 146 spaces. That's all the spaces. If people are having company, are there visitor spots? Can they park along the street leading up to the entrance? Can they park along Fountain Street? Where are the, people do have visitors. Most people, most adults in that area will probably have a car. There's no bus line, to my knowledge, public bus line in that area. Additionally, my understanding is that $350,000 would be the taxes that are coming from the facility. I know there was a mention of 7 kids. As an educator who moved to this town for the education, I can say with confidence there will be more than 7 kids in that building. At $350,000 of tax revenue, that's about 14 kids, provided they have no special education needs. $25,000 per student is about the going rate right now per child in Woodbridge. It can go up to $100,000. I know of kids who have been outsourced in this town for $100,000 to other facilities for their education needs. How are we going to pay for that? Also, buses, are the kids going to be walking down the street? You can tell I'm opposed for this, let me just make that clear on record. Are kids going to be walking down the street to Fountain Street to get on a bus, or a bus is going to be going up? Will the buses have easy access in and through that area to pick up children safely while other cars are leaving to go to work, entering and exiting? I found it quite astonishing, the number of cars they said are entering and exiting. Is everybody working remotely in that building? I find that interesting. And the last thing to do with the zoning changes. We rebuilt our house about 10 years ago. We had to, if you look at the skyline, the overview of our house, it goes back. We had to go in with a 3-inch jog because we could not get a variance. So it was an aerial view, the roof line. From above, 3 inches had to go in the back. Come to my property, I'd be happy to show it to you. We couldn't get 3 inches from an aerial view. That impacted no one. And all of these zoning changes are being made for a facility like this that does not sit well with our town, that does not support our town, does not bring in tax revenue for our town. And again, who's paying for all this excess? We, the residents, are paying enough. It's a very expensive town to live in, and I'm strictly opposed to this. Thank you.
All right, there was a question about the elevator. Is it a freight elevator or is it a passenger elevator? Legally in a building.
Sir, can you just let us know your name?
Peter Weeks, 14 Diana Drive, Woodbridge, 1978.
And just write it down real quick. You won't count it into your time, okay?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
And the reason I'm bringing up the difference between a freight elevator and a passenger elevator. You cannot use passengers on a freight elevator. It's against the law because of the design of the passenger versus the freight. Correct?
They're not going to answer questions, but you can have it in the record. Right?
So they got one elevator in this building, and it's a freight elevator. So anybody that's living in this building can't ride that elevator.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Rossi, and I live at 109 Sonia Road. I am a former member of the Economic Development Commission and raised our family here, been in town 30 years, and very, very highly esteem the town of Woodbridge for a very, very lovely and a very balanced place, which it has been. The application that's before TPZ, I would ask TPZ to really, really examine some of the potential deficiencies that are in the application, as well as some of the exceptions that are being requested. And I really, really believe that is paramount with a town that has so much sensitivity and with a project that is potentially so large. and so unlike anything that we've seen. I was very surprised to see that the building is a football field in length. It's 10 yards wide and it's 4 stories high. I know the area where it's to be located, and it is a very unique area because of hillside, because of the eastern proximity to the Wilbur Cross, just because of that whole surrounding. And what I would say is that I think that the traffic analysis, I do not know if the ITE manual has ever been wrong before, but I think perhaps that it is. I find it a little bit implausible that with 96 units and 178 parking spaces, that there'd be only 24 vehicles exiting in the morning and 23 entering in the evening. I think that there are some really, really big questions, such as in terms of the landscape question. The statement was made this evening that it would be reasonably expected not to have any adverse environmental impact. And I think we need to be very circumspect, and I think we need to be very, very cautious, because it sounds like the environmental impact could be real. I would add that in the time that I was on economic development, we published a plan. It was the Woodbridge Development Concept Plan. It was written by Yale Urban Design Workshop. I thought quite highly of it. And the plan called for traffic calming in the Village District, which was then created down by Lucy and Bradley, Amity Road, and Litchfield Turnpike. It envisioned a pedestrian village with sidewalks and crosswalks. We succeeded in getting steep grants. Sidewalks were put in. A DOT study was done, and that resulted in the widening of access at Litchfield Turnpike and Amity Road entrances to the Wilbur Cross. So many things started to fall into place vis-a-vis the Village District and EDC. And I think if we take a very, very holistic approach towards planning and POCD and economic development, I think certainly the Village District is a prime candidate.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Let me just conclude by saying a prime candidate with better transportation and more logical location for opportunity housing. So I think that should be very carefully considered.
I know. You've already spoken, but if you run up real quick. If you have something to say.
Wow. Every time as they want to do.
Yeah. Yes, it's quite an undertaking.
All right.
I'm just signing in, I promise.
Just say your name.
Hi, good evening. My name is Diana McCarthy.
Diana, thank you very much. You have spoken before, so we're just looking for something else, I believe.
Yes, no, this is
Okay,
new,
very
as
good.
in reflections of this
Go ahead.
evening's discussion.
The commission's listening.
I appreciate you calling that out so I don't repeat myself. My husband agrees with that statement. Just one top priority that I think we should call out with this is forest fragmentation. The Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection has a top priority right now at preserving our core forests, and this would be ripping apart a big portion of one of those. Also, something that was mentioned from the group earlier is that they're unaware of any endangered species or critical species or habitats that live there. I just want to call out real quick that in the state of Connecticut, we have 9 types of bats, 8 of which are listed on the endangered species list, and 6 types of bats have been found at the neighboring properties from the research that we've done with one of the local bat scientists and the recording devices that were set up to make sure that we actually have certain species there. So we have other lists and reports that are available on the Conservation's page. If you'd like to see them, we're happy to forward them over again. But I think it's important that, that we recognize that there are critical habitats and species and endangered and high priority species that are there, and we're happy to walk it along with deforesters if you'd like. Also, these gentlemen talked about how important landscaping is. Conservation has tried to work with TPZ as we are redeveloping the regulations on landscaping, and there were some areas of interest that we wanted to call out. I won't get into that now, but I will point out that these gentlemen talked about how important it was to address native plantings and things that are non-invasive, and yet their pictures show Japanese barberry and burning bush, two of the most highly invasive plants that we find around Connecticut. So based on all of this, I strongly urge the Commission to politely decline this proposal based on the environmental impacts that are going to surely happen. Thank you very much for your time.
My name is Michael Broderick, I live on Stoll Road. So when we consider a project, you know, we are expecting you to be our defenders. And that's what we have not seen really with this application. This application is leaving the majority of the town twisting in the wind, and you're supposed to be our saviors. But we haven't seen that behavior at all. Your behaviors have been actually the opposite. You seem to represent the developer's interest over the town's interest. And we really can't understand why that is. Is it your appointments by, you know, somebody who's telling you what to do? We don't know. But we have odd circumstances with our chairman leaving in the middle of an application. Things are not normal in Woodbridge right now, and we want a sense of normalcy back. We had a town planner that's been fired, that gave us information that was wholly incorrect. He gave us a study about how many children for an average community, but Woodbridge isn't an average community. It has one of the best school systems in the state. People move here for the schools, and so like his you know, estimate of the children was ridiculous. And, you know, that's what you should be considering. The differences between Woodbridge and the rest of Connecticut, for that matter. And there are huge differences. This will be a magnet for children. I currently own a place in New York, as well as in Woodbridge. People move to certain areas, they'll put kids in a studio to get into the town. That's exactly what's going to happen in this project. All you have to do is look at the topography. Right below this proposed project is a large complex in New Haven. Why wouldn't those people, to get into the Woodbridge school system, just move up the hill into this building and overflow our school system? So environment is also the economics. Economics should be driving you to tell you that this is really the wrong thing for this town. Our school system is ready to need an addition. I don't hear the developer proposing that they're going to be giving money for us to fund the addition at Beecher School after this project is built. That's a huge environmental and economic impact on the entire town. And that's what you should be considering, because you are supposed to be protecting us, not them. This project could just go away if you allow it to, and you know, instead change our zoning back like it should have been, never allowed in the first place, not to allow apartment buildings to be built all over town. That was a huge, huge mistake.
Dr. Broderick, thank you for
No, excuse me, I'm gonna finish my statement too. I waited all night to speak. And you know, Mr. Kennedy, I'm really tired of your nonsense. You know, you told me in a private conversation that this application had to be approved because it was something that was so important, because our governor was going to have a housing plan that was going to force us to have it. And actually, you were totally incorrect. That statement was, that housing plan has been vetoed. So, you know, your reason for changing our zoning.
You're misrepresenting my comment.
No, I'm not. I'm telling you exactly what the conversation was.
I appreciate what you're saying and your contribution. I think we've all heard you. You're on the record.
Yeah, well, I just want people to know the foul and incorrect thinking you had about changing our zoning in the first place. It was so misguided, and you were wrong.
Thank you, Dr. Broderick, for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Dennis Santulli, 27 Ranch Road. You know, most people, what's very alarming is most people that I talk to have no idea about this project. And it's a huge thing. And I keep asking myself, why would they change the zoning? Before I put my hands on a patient, if I have a student, I ask them, before you touch them, you need to know what you're doing. You need to explain to them, what are you doing and why you're doing it? Can someone please, at a further date, just ask me, why did you make these changes where you wouldn't give that young lady, who's my wife, certain thing? We couldn't have a 3-car garage, we couldn't have 15 inches for our front portico. That's crazy. When you make a decision like this, you need to consider the impact it has on the taxpayers. The school system is 3/4 of our budget. This building would not even be allowed in New Haven. New Haven is 12 units per acre, this is 18. So please, I'm just wondering, just why did you make these changes? What benefit was it for the taxpayers of this town? They present a plan, all you have to say is, I'm sorry, it doesn't meet our requirements. Why? I mean, I'm coming up with, do you know someone on here? Possibly, I don't know. Do you not know what you're doing, or do you have an agenda instead of a plan? Respectfully, I'm a physical therapist, I'm in these homes, you have one elevator, I'm only thinking, oh my God, what if someone's on the top floor? How are they gonna get out of this building? We don't have a building like this. It would not be allowed in New Haven. Respectfully. I'm saying there's something wrong here. If you could please answer that question for me, please. I don't know why you changed the regulations, these rules, but you know, you need to be accountable. We're your constituents. You owe us that. There needs to be some rationale why you did this, and for the love of God, I have no idea why you did this. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Robert Hill, 68 Acorn Hill Road. So just a few comments. So we are on the cusp of minimum standard. What a legacy for us to live by. The cusp of minimum standard. I don't think that's the way things work here in Woodbridge. I think our schools are at the minimum cusp. I think our services and everything that happens in Woodbridge at the minimum cost. Putting people, life, safety at risk. Look at the building here, and when I hear the number of children, oh, for a typical building like this, 7 children. Okay, so my daughter lived in a building maybe this size or whatever, somewhere in this range, in Madison, Wisconsin, in downtown. Yes, children don't usually live in buildings like this in downtown Madison or downtown New Haven. That's unusual. But you plug something like this in suburbia, where you have wonderful school systems, yes, there's going to be a lot of children in those buildings, in that building. So a few other things. I heard during the presentation today, you know, the fire marshal and the fire chief are in favor of this. Like to see the letter where they state and confirm what was in the memo that Attorney Neff referred to. I'd like to see that. So in my professional life, I've done numerous car studies and impact studies in development of businesses. 38 cars, it's funny, 38 leave, 23 come back. I guess they don't like living there. I don't know. For the amount of people living there, to not think that they're going to leave. Yes, this building is in New Haven, we're in a city location where people are commuting with public transportation, maybe so. So when you say a typical building like this, 38 cars drive, yes, in that environment, maybe so. This building is suburbia, not so much, okay? So another factor to consider here, when you start blasting, you're removing all the fill that's there, has to do with diesel fuel and in the air. And so many years ago, we fought around the reservoir. They wanted to expand the reservoir, and there was going to be 70 aircraft carriers where the rock removed. And I will tell you at that time, the first selectman, Amy Morello, worked with us and Pete to ensure that did not happen. And because of the issue with diesel and children breathing that. So you're going to have a lot of trucks with diesel and children basically breathing that up and down Fountain Street. So I didn't see, looking at how those children are going to walk down to the bus. I guess they're going to be dodging the cars going up and down that. So I didn't see, you know, that situation there. Also curious about the retaining wall in the back, how high that is, and the safety of people maybe hiking there and falling off that retaining wall, however high it is in that way. And just the last thing, I was kind of interested in the beginning of this meeting when the 3 members did not recuse themselves, and they said we're not aware of what happened. I'm just wondering how it came out that the Democratic Town Committee rejected this, how no one knew about it, how they did that. But that's not really part of this, but just thought I'd make that comment. Thank you for your time. I look forward to this board and this commission to do the right thing by the town after listening to all the facts. I think you asked some very good questions tonight, and I appreciate the intervener coming today, along with your expert today, to bring out some of the things that need to be concerned. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Donald Salato, 3 Knollwood Road. We're here, committed and passionate about our town. It's interesting to me that the application is for special exceptions, not as of right, but special exceptions. I would submit that the most obvious exceptional feature of this proposed development is just how ghastly it is. Mr. Harrigan talked about some of the criteria which the commission must follow with respect to considering the merits or of this application or the demerits? Well, we've got an application here that is in complete disharmony with the current town plan of conservation and development for so many reasons. The rendering of the proposed structure has appalled people, and that picture tells more words than can be spoken at all of these meetings. I've been to many meetings in this town, and I've never seen such a level of discontent, bewilderment, frustration, and anger with the spirit, the psychology, the soul of our town being so ruptured and toyed with and treated with such uncaring disservice. There are so many reasons that this commission can refuse these special exceptions. We had a very learned consultant speak at the expense of the Parks Commission and the Land Trust. That's extraordinary, extraordinary that private people in our town would be so energized and outraged to invest substantial sums of money in this. And in the competing battle of the experts, there is sufficient doubt that has been presented to all of the points that were asserted. Sufficient doubt that you have plenty of reasons here to deny this application. And in terms of the children, if I have an apartment in Cooper Place in the basement of Fountain Street in New Haven, and I have my daughter or my son and daughter, and I'm paying rent there, and my kids are going to Davis Street School, I'm going to move up a few hundred yards up the street and pay rent, market rent, mind you, in Woodbridge, so my kids can go.
Thank you for your comment.
I know about the precious timekeeping, Chairman. I know about that. We've been through this before. We've been through this before. You can count beans somewhere else. I want to say, finally, it is fatuous to present that 7 kids are going to be at this development. There's going to be multitudes of children, dozens and dozens. And it's nice to know that the new plan has eliminated most of the lawnscape so that these dozens of kids can play in the meadows that are being implemented, or more likely, in the parking lot. Turn it down.
Is there any further comment this evening from the public on the Fountain Street application?
Just a quick comment.
Yeah, sign in. Can you sign in?
It will be brief. Margaret Anderson, 87 Center Road. I've been in town since 1973. Raised our family here. It's important for all of us, for all the right reasons. But I want you to consider this. If I decide to build an apartment house on my property, I will hire this team to get it through. Now you're going to say, Margaret, you lost your freaking mind. And I will have. But I will take all the money and move to Florida. That is what's going to happen to our town. When we're in it for the money and not the commitment and the passion and the community, we'll lose everything. That's what I've learned living here since 1973. Thank you. Thank all of you. My husband's done his part on committees also. That's what makes us great. And we need to be better, and we need to be greater. I don't like Florida. I like the Woodbridge.
It's not going to be the same wood.
I'd like to remind people that are here, you can still write in. You can write in a letter. You can put in other further comments as, as you would like to do so. Please feel free to do that.
I don't understand.
There you have it. There you have it.
The question is, do you always listen?
Well, I guess that summarizes part of my comment, is that I guess anytime, I'm sharing the past, and I think we're on the road, anytime you have maybe 80, 90 people over the course of 2 months with no one saying it, like, not one person, maybe one person had some positive thoughts about it that would diversify the community or something, but I think that behooves you guys to listen. I mean, that's a wake-up call. If I heard that on the commission I'm on, and nobody likes what I'm doing, I would be like, oh, maybe I'm not doing what I should be doing. And even besides that, the quality of living, you're asking these people to come in these 96 units, it has no play area, no recreation area, no only one. I mean, I do physical medicine. People who are very able, regular days, do you think they can get up and down easily and keep their livelihood going if there's one freight elevator and they have to take care of their children? It's just an unreasonable structure for creating a habitat that would be joyous, that we would want people in Woodbridge to live in. We want to live in nice places here to joy. So we want to encourage that in the people, in the housing that we're creating. And I find that sad that we're willing to have a housing place that is not encouraging a livelihood that has a recreation place, that has a gym, that has anything. And nobody here wants it, so who are you benefiting? So I concur with what everyone else is saying. The logic of it escapes me, and it seems to escape a lot of people, and it would be disappointing if we made decisions based on those criteria that we're seem to be tempted to make those decisions based on. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
How are you? I'm Sean Rolla, the fire chief of Woodbridge. I spoke at this meeting a few months ago. We met with the contractor, we met with the attorneys a few months ago. We went over our concerns like we went over at the meeting. What I was understood tonight was it was discussed that we were in agreement with this. We are not in agreement with it. We haven't seen the revised plans come back. And I just want to set the record straight for the fire department, we are not okay. We haven't seen anything come back to us after our conversation with them. So whatever was said about the fire department tonight, I want to make sure nothing came back to the fire department and we're 100% clear from this board that we are not in agreement as of now. As the fire chief and the fire marshal and the fire department, we are not in favor as it is right now. So I just want to clear the record straight. I wasn't here earlier, but I want to make it known that this is where we stand. Thank you.
Gee, they lied. Oh my God, they lied. Jeez.
Okay. The commission does have some further work to do in a little bit, but we'd love to hear from a few more people if you have something to say. We do have an agenda, some other items to do. We're keeping the hearing open. But if you'd like to say something, please stand up and say so. You can continue to write letters and send information in to Chris Sullivan through our website and the town email. Anybody else have any comments or questions? One quick question.
I just want to be clear what it is that we're going to be doing at the next meeting.
All right, so with respect to that, the next meeting is going to be scheduled for October 21st. We're continuing to hold open the public hearing, and so it'll continue to be open. And you had mentioned that you wanted the last comments before we close the hearing.
I mean, that's always the
Are
way
you
it's done.
comfortable closing the hearing now?
No.
Okay, so I'll hold open the hearing for October 21st, and on that date, I do plan to close the hearing on October 21st. So
Okay.
people can still write in material. You should probably respond to the last speaker and send us in something in writing to make that point. Okay, attorney? Okay, so we're continuing to keep the hearing open until October 21st. People can send in information, and then on October 1st, we'll close the hearing. We'll probably go on that.
Okay, and so on the 21st, are you expecting more public comments? Because I think a number of people have spoken on a number of occasions. I don't know what else there is to comment upon. It's only, a lot earlier than the past.
I don't think I have to answer that. I think we might give people some more time, or we might not, but I do expect to close the hearing that night and to vote on it on October.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Vote on it on the 21st?
October 21st, we expect the commission to vote. Okay. All right. So we do have some new business this evening. We're going to move on to that.
We need a motion to continue the hearing?
Yeah, thank you. So moved. Do we have a second to continue?
I'm sorry.
Second.
Second. The motion is to continue the hearing. All those in favor? Aye. We're still in session.
We have to continue this meeting, so if all due respect, can you take your conversation outside?
We'll give it a minute. Thank you. I know. Of October.
The 110 Luciani, and we should be able to act on the transfer of the application. We have a letter of consent to
Can everyone speak up just a little bit?
All right, folks, we just speak up. We're on the record. All right. So new business. We're on the new business.
Yes.
All right. So we have a request by Time Subject Services to transfer special permit from 20 to 23 Lunar Drive. You should have received the letter. And if you have a chance to take a look at that.
Can you repeat that, Jeff?
So in the new business section, we have a request by Time.
Yes, I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Paul, you have a letter for them to transfer.
I read it.
Just, did you take a look at it?
I did.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion to approve that transfer.
Second.
And we have a second. Any
I'm sorry,
discussion?
who seconded? I can't see.
I did.
Madam Chair. Yes, and if anyone wants to have any discussion on that point.
What is the reason that they chose just a different developer or what?
It's this letter.
Can you? Yeah, you have
Property is being purchased by someone else.
That's what I thought.
And the regulations, as was pointed out to you for 110 Luciani, the commission has to transfer
the permit for an excavation permit. The other permit, the site plan approval, runs with the land and does not need to be transferred. So in accordance with your regs, you've got permission from the permit holder to allow the transfer, and then the request is to you to transfer it.
Any further discussion or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? No. Second item is the Connecticut Housing Restoration LLC at 110 Luciani Street. We are simply receiving the application for the excavation, removal, filling, and grading, and processing earth products. This requires a special exception. Is that correct? Good.
Well, it is a special exception, so it requires a public hearing. As was mentioned to you in the course of the hearing for 114 Luciani, this application is to bring material back into 110 for grading around the footprint and all that other good stuff. So, given that later, after this one, you need to schedule a hearing on the POCD,
I'm thinking December for this one.
you may need to just do this one for December, because with all due courtesy to the people who live in the area, you want to give people time to talk.
All right, December.
Chris, on the agenda, did I read it right? It's that 110 is a two-family home?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
It's allowed use by right.
Yeah, that's right. I just want to make sure I read it right. I thought it was two families on 110 and 114, two separate.
No, each 110 and 114 are each proposed to have a two-family house.
Okay. All right.
So you're...
We're going to move into our work session.
Can I have a motion to schedule a hearing on 110?
Yes. Motion to schedule a hearing in the first Monday in December.
I'll second.
Any discussion or further comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Before we go on to the work session, I have a question.
Please.
If we wanted to bring up the rescission of the zoning changes again, would that fall under new business or work session?
New business is for when you're receiving applications that come into you. That would be either under a work session or other business to come before the committee.
And I don't see, we normally don't have new, other business or old business on our agenda, do we?
That's called your work session.
Okay, so it's the same thing. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go to any discussion on Fountain Street. We have that for October 21st, so continued. Okay. So
And
update.
at your request, I will post all the items that I have scanned.
Chris, thank you very much.
Maybe you could post them as a packet, right?
There are two packets,
Yeah.
yeah. There's one, well, there may be three, because there may be one for through the first hearing, and then through the September 2nd, and then one through tonight. But they'll be labeled appropriately.
So regarding the draft plan of conservation and development, there was a development with the Board of Selectmen in the town of Woodbridge. The Board of Selectmen had a hearing and then took 3 motions on the draft plan of conservation and development. The TPZ sent the Board of Selectmen for review a draft plan of the POCD that we've been working on for the past year or so. The Board of Selectmen took 3 motions. They passed a motion unanimously to reject the POCD. Then they passed a motion recommending and suggesting to the TPC that we set up a committee to redo the POCD and to take a look at the material therein. And then they sent in a 3rd motion, which also passed, which was to transmit to the TPC the data that had been provided to the Board of Selectmen and to give that to us. That has come over, and Chris has posted that on our website. I believe you did.
No.
Didn't you?
That will formally be received at the public hearing that you schedule.
Okay.
So there's other comments that have come in from other boards and commissions with suggestions and whatnot. So all of that information will be part of the hearing record for you, because as with any public hearing, you need to have all that information part of the hearing record upon which you will base your decision.
So we're looking to do that meeting on November 3rd, correct?
November 3rd is the next date where you have a reasonable period of time for the public to come and comment.
Right.
And so
And it's a regularly scheduled meeting?
it's a regularly scheduled meeting to accommodate people who may wish to come. I've already reserved this room.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that people will want to come.
Okay. So do you need a motion or something for us
We
to?
need a motion to schedule the public hearing.
Okay, so I make a motion to schedule the POCD discussion on November 3rd, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? November 3rd.
I just have a quick question on, in terms of those comments that are coming in through the website, when you're compiling those, when will
Those go to SLR, and then SLR will compile them and present them to you at the public hearing, or before, but people can comment up until the hearing, so.
I'm just wondering if you know, at a certain point, we could just get whatever's been submitted, just so we have time to review it ahead of time, as opposed to.
I don't anticipate that you would make a decision now, but you might. So I will ask to get those comments to you as soon as possible.
Kathy, you want to give a report on the housing committee?
Yeah, and I'll just go back, because we did have a last month's report. I wanted to report the housing committee did complete an amended version of the affordable housing plan. It addressed the concerns regarding updating demographic information. We were linking in the current information that was prepared for our new POCD. And that also clarified the language related to the 10% requirement of affordable housing. And that 10% is to avert a builder's remedy. It's not a state requirement. And also address concerns that the plan was too long, so we cut out the survey data, since that survey data exists on our website. And just to clarify, this is just some amendments, just to clarify some issues some residents had. It's not the official state-required 5-year update of the plan. That should be happening. That process probably be starting sometime in 2026. And we are planning a joint meeting at some point with the Conservation Committee. I think we're talking about November 6th. And that's just having discussions on how we could work together to create a more sustainable Woodbridge, balancing affordable housing and conservation efforts. And just one more thing, this is the most updated. The Housing Committee, we did provide public comment to the Board of Selectmen regarding the master plan for the country club. And we just wanted to reiterate that it should include affordable housing in the plans and not make it purely age restricted. And we also made comments on the proposed Housing Commission ordinance regarding membership composition and ensuring that there's planning capacity for that commission. So I'm not sure if anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Update from our zoning enforcement officer.
Just a bit of levity. The 2 roosters that were complained about been relocated. So,
I hope they're still healthy.
Do we know they're both roosters and one's not a hen?
No, these were roosters.
Okay.
They were
Have you ever
crowing
seen
in
one?
all hours of the night, and our regs don't allow for them, and so they were rehomed, or I'm not sure if one may have found a soup pot. Anyway, so other than that, I've just been chasing signs. People have been complaining about signs. There's been some complaints about cars that have been sitting out there. So I'm staying busy.
Thank you for your service to the town of Woodbridge.
25 years here.
Oh, congratulations, congratulations. So the minutes, correspondence, please, let me see. Approval of minutes, anybody see the minutes?
I did not.
All right, can we put those off since none of us have read them? I'm sure that they're quite adequate.
Certainly.
All
So
right.
we'll put them on your agenda for the regular meeting on November 3rd.
Paul, do you have any comments to help us conclude the?
No, I just wanted to bring up, look, not to be a troublemaker, but we heard from people.
Yeah.
You know, so far, I've counted, it's 99% are against what the applicant has said.
Right.
And people anecdotally have stated that developers are trying to come to town. I'm going to bring this up again. I think we should rescind the changes you made to the zoning regulations and revert back to the ones that were in place prior to December.
Understood.
And actually, I moved that.
Can a commission member move a change to the zoning reg?
Yes, he can.
The commission can propose amendments to its regulations. So typically, you've had a motion, so before you can discuss it, somebody needs to second it. And then you can have discussion, and then you can decide whether or not you want to go forward with that motion or not.
And it requires a public hearing, correct?
It requires a public hearing. It requires notice to the regional council of governments. So typically that means we're not going to make their meeting this month, so it would go to their meeting in it would go to their meeting in November, which would mean you would have a public hearing in December. And we all know what happens to public hearings in December. But that's the way it is. Unless you chose to have a hearing, because it's under your thing, you could choose to have a public hearing in January after the holidays if you thought that December is not a good month to have a public hearing. Your choice.
Point of order. This motion was made several months ago. I can't remember what meeting it was. From memory, we didn't schedule a public hearing. And Chris, you know better than I would, but Rob brought it up. We were in the library.
Yes.
There was no public hearing scheduled. The motion was made. We had discussion and voted on it that night.
No, we had
That was the decision.
It was what?
That was the decision. You had a public.
We had a big public hearing.
You had
in
an
the chair.
application that was submitted
In the library.
in March. You scheduled a public hearing to be able to dance around getting it to the Council of Governments for May. You had the public hearing on May 5th. You closed the public hearing on May 5th. You then had a special meeting. The first part of the meeting was on the POCD. The
Right.
second part of the meeting was discussion of the application that was submitted by Stephen Mason to go back to what the regulations had been.
Stephen Mason.
That's where
You're
you
right.
acted
That's
on
right.
it.
You're right. My bad. You're
And
right.
then there was
Yeah.
an appeal that was taken of that, and that appeal is, we're just finishing the hearing record.
You're 100% correct. My apologies.
It's okay.
Sorry.
We have discussion.
You have two motions.
You have one vote motion on the floor
You have a
right
motion,
now.
and
We're in
Sarah Locke
discussion.
seconded it.
Yeah.
So I guess now that there's a second, there's discussion. The question is, so there is an appeal of our recent decision. There was an appeal filed by Mr. Mason, I believe.
Correct.
I don't exactly know how it was in court. It was
Well, it has
filed.
to be filed in
Yeah.
court, yeah.
So procedurally, I don't know if opening up another public hearing seems like waiting for that process, and I don't know how that process goes, but
It can take years.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah,
It's not going to get hurt until 2026 or so.
I'm just, it's having that run parallel. I mean, I guess if we rescinded, if we went back, it would make that lawsuit moot, but.
Correct.
Paul, I would want to get some guidance from the town attorney on how the commission would do this, but I wouldn't mind putting it on a future agenda.
Yeah.
Were you at the public
Can I-
hearing?
Was that what?
Were you at the public hearing that we had?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted.
Because it was, yeah, there was a long presentation by Ms. Morello.
So I just remembered,
Yeah.
right, because I remember the beginning was the POCD, because I was sitting away from you guys in the library. Because you guys were all squished together, and I'm like, I'm not sitting on top of you.
If I could say it in a non-legal way, it was a revisitation of something that we had passed, that we passed, and it came back.
You're right, I forgot about the Mason letter.
Revisited, Paul.
But regardless, so, Jeff, you can certainly go, but we can certainly vote on the motion, because if the motion fails, then it's a moot point anyway.
Yeah.
Then if the motion fails, then it just reverts back to the Mason appeal, however that gets heard. The motion passes, and you can talk to the lawyer about how to handle it.
So can you tell me again so I can hear better, Paul, what the motion was?
The motion is to revert back to the regulations prior to the December 2024 meeting.
And
Just to be
you
clear.
seconded that, Sarah?
Yes, I thought you were actually making a motion for us to change, I didn't know we were reverting back.
The motion was to revert back to the
Okay.
regs that were in place prior to December of 2024.
And if we do that, we have to have a public hearing, right?
Correct.
Right.
And just to be
Right.
clear, that does not have an effect on the 804
Correct.
fence.
Right.
Right, only has effect going forward. Yep.
I think you need the advice from the
I would like to talk to the town attorney. I would, about this. I mean, there's a pending lawsuit, I believe, against the town that I don't know enough about. I just assumed, Chair, and I know that there's a lawsuit regarding this, the Mason lawsuit regarding what you're discussing. But I will do this, I will put it on the agenda.
Then, can we put it on the
I'll
agenda
put it
for
on the
October
agenda.
21?
To discuss and vote on your motion? is
Yeah.
that-
I'll do that.
Okay, thanks.
By then, he'll have spoken to the
So
town
you
attorney.
withdrawing your
What he
motion?
said.
Well, I'll withdraw the motion, assuming it gets on the agenda for October 21.
So,
And I will put that back on the agenda.
Thank you. A gentleman and a scholar.
just so that I understand other people's thinking on this, what bearing does the Mason lawsuit have on our decisions about whether we'd like to revert the zoning regulations?
I don't know, I have to ask.
That's what he wants to do. It probably doesn't, but it's better to be sure what we're doing.
The answer to the question
Before
is
we
I don't
employ
know.
ourselves in something worse. I don't think so, but I don't know. We should get a good answer pretty
Yeah, a lawsuit has no bearing on, I mean, there could be 1,000 lawsuits, they have no bearing on
I
the
think
business
this
of the
is
commission.
I think this is settled, we're putting it on the.
Yeah, so we're good.
Right, we're good, right? Pizza time, Paul?
Second half of the game time too,
All
Jack.
right, all right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Something to say about?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.